Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Half a Clue Movie Review. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most prolific directors of at least the past 20, 23, 24 years. What was his first film, 1996?
Yes, that was The Bottle Rocket.
Yep, and that director's name is Wes Anderson. Some people have described him as a genre in and of himself, which, if you've seen his movies, you know what they mean. He has a very unique art style, one of the greatest surrealists, in my opinion, when it comes to directing, and actually my favorite director of all time. By the way, this is Miles. I'm going to be hosting the podcast today, as Blake and Ron are not here, so I am just joined by
Philippe?
Yep.
Jean-Philippe?
And we're going to dig right into this. We just watched The French Dispatch, and, well, you're going to see what we thought about that. So, take it away, Philip.
All right, so Wes Anderson, as Miles already did an intro on him. He was born in May 1st, 1969 in Houston, Texas, to Texas Ann Anderson, a realtor and archaeologist, and Melville Leonard Anderson, someone who worked in advertising and public relations. He has two brothers, Mel, and his younger brother, Eric Chase, who was an artist who did a lot of paintings and designs for his films, such as the Royal Tenenbaums and the Bottle Rocket.
Pretty much all the illustrations that you see throughout his films were done by his younger brother.
Yeah, and it's just like a constant, it's like this, it's a family business, pretty much. And after that, he went to St. John's School, which was used for Rushmore location. And after that, he kept on using his dad's Super 8 camera to make weird little quirky films, like, basically no budget versions of Rushmore. And and then he went to University of Texas, where he met his future collaborator, Owen Wilson. And eventually they worked together and made their first film, Bottle Rocket, which was a short film.
Short film first, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's start off with that. Wait, before we even get into this, Miles, what is your overall thoughts on Wes Anderson?
I think that he has a brilliant mind, and he has a vision to do things that a lot of directors don't necessarily have the vision to do. Whenever you're watching a Wes Anderson movie, it feels like you're watching a movie. I don't know how much better to say it.
I see. But what happens when you watch a Marvel film?
When you watch a Marvel film, you see trash. You see hot garbage. You see the fingers of little children in China dying, making your fucking toys for your fucking Marvel stuff. It's disgusting.
I see. Half a Clue has currently been banned from China for life.
It's okay. They couldn't access the internet there anyways.
The CCP has banned us from this. Okay, so now we're on the same list as Chloe Zhao, and no longer able to enter China now. It's unfortunate. You know what I mean?
I'm not that disappointed.
Let's call it for our audio only listeners, which everybody. It's this long running trend that Miles has a deep fascination and hatred towards Marvel films or anything Disney related. Yeah.
Yes, not just because it's Disney. It's just I feel like a lot of the big budget, mainstream media outlet films kind of muddy the waters when it comes to actually making artistic films and moving forward in filmmaking. They take things that have been done a million times and just rebrand them and repackage them to try to sell as many tickets as possible instead of trying to improve or evolve the landscape that is cinema.
Right. And do you think that's more and this will all tie back to Wes Anderson, because in terms of who actually released his film, what studio, it's going to be ironic when I actually reveal who actually released it. But is that the studio's fault or is that the audience?
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah. I think that the studios aren't willing to take chances because the audience, they know, okay, we do this cookie cutter stuff and it'll sell. And they take chances on directors and let them do some artistic stuff. And, there is a fair amount of that out there where they actually do release good films that I consider to be interesting and thought-provoking. But I think that what they could be doing better is they could be helping to tie in more elements of good filmmaking into these big franchises and stuff like that. And that's actually what I hope is going to happen with Ghostbusters. I'm praying for the new Ghostbusters movie.
This is a big upgrade because when we first saw when it was just the first Ghostbusters trailer, or like I don't even know if you watched the trailer, but you just heard about it.
No, I watched.
You watched the first one, right?
the first Ghostbusters trailer.
Yeah,
and I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what movies this is. I didn't know what movie it was for. I was like, I wonder what this movie's going to be. This looks like a beautiful indie film. Like, this is going to be so special. I'm going to love this film. Yes, I do predispose myself to thinking that from trailers, and I'm usually right about whether or not I'll like a film based on a trailer. But then I saw the Ghostbusters car, and I was like, oh no. What is this? Are they continuing on with the new reboot that they did, like, what was that, 5 years ago?
Oh wait, no, I'll tell you this.
Or are they doing something completely new? And I wasn't sure about that, so I was completely unsure about whether it would be good, and they were just kind of bait and switching us. But it actually looks like they're really putting in some good elements of filmmaking into it.
And for audiences, that's a big change in opinion. From when he first talked about it, he's like, oh, is this Stranger Things but with ghosts? And then I was like, oh, what is this? Fucking shit bag. Oh, Finn Wolfhard, curly haired piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's not what Miles said, but
I don't even know who Finn Wolfhard is.
Yeah, he's a kid from Mike from Stranger Things. Yeah, Remember,
I never watched it.
You never watched Stranger Things?
I watched like 4 episodes, and I was like, this is okay, but yeah.
This guy,
yeah,
I'm not even gonna argue with that because honestly, we'll see. That's gonna be a whole nother topic when it comes out. Yeah. So yeah, with that one, it's like that one. The continuity of that film is it's essentially it is a proper Ghostbusters 3, technically 4, because I didn't know that the Ghostbusters video game is considered canon. Yeah, because it had Dan Aykroyd work on it and stuff like that. And from what I've heard, people said it's actually like a pretty great Ghostbusters video game.
Well, okay then.
Yeah, and it has all the voice actors like Sigourney Weaver, Bill Murray, and and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So this is the actual proper Ghostbusters 3 if you don't include the video game. And it's from the director Jason Reitman is the son of Ivan Reitman, the guy who directed the first 2 Ghostbusters films. And Jason Reitman, in his own right, one of the youngest Academy Award nominated directors with Up in the Air, and he directed Juno and Thank You for Smoking and Tully and stuff. But his films are like way different from his dad's. Like it's it's like a lot more serious, a lot more about middle class America, and specifically white suburban America, but still interesting nonetheless, right? And he decided to do, take on his dad's mantle and do Ghostbusters, which I think is the most interesting part.
Yeah. And I want to get back to what I was saying about what Hollywood can do to make
like
cinema
incorporate
better.
His indie stuff.
Yeah. And there's this perfect opportunity right here with Ghostbusters. And hopefully this does work out and it does pave the path for future movies to be able to do it. If it does what I hope it does, which is introduce a lot of the indie film elements, introduce a lot more art house type elements into mainstream films that they know, okay, we're going to sell 1 million tickets day one just because of the name. Yeah.
They kind of try to do that with Eternals.
Yeah. I still haven't seen Eternals. Yeah. So I actually want to see Eternals. I'm giving Marvel another shot with that one.
Yeah.
But mostly because it's got magic in it, and I like Doctor Strange, one of the few Marvel films I liked, and I think that they actually do magic systems fairly well. Yeah.
And it's just the sad thing is, like, I just don't think, like, not to sound super fucked up, and I won't name the specific groups, but the groups that watch the film now and drive the box office, I just think they have bad taste. They have bad taste, and they like bad mainstream filmmaking.
Fast and the Furious, anyone?
Dude, Fast and the Furious, for fuck's sake, $700 million? F9? Okay, I enjoyed it. It was fun. We saw Vin Jesus.
Yeah.
But
well, at least Old didn't do well. And
it did.
Old did well?
It made profit, yeah.
That disappoints me. That movie was a waste of talent. Like, literally, that's all I can say about it, is they wasted cinematographers. They wasted good people, good actors, on that movie who could have been doing something else that was even better. Fortunately, like half of those actors from that movie are in other stuff this year, and you got to see them be in good roles, which, you know, so you can't say too much bad about it. But
yeah. Venom 2 is almost making 500 million worldwide, and that's doing the best because, look, let's be honest, that movie is like very dumb.
Well, people had been asking for Venom 2 for like years, especially they wanted to see Carnage. They were like, let me see Carnage and stuff like that. And they were just like, okay.
No, but people care more about like dumb franchise fun that they're familiar with. And, you know, and you could give them the illusion that it's like kind of deep, but it's not, it can't be too deep. And they'll be like, okay, this is not for me.
And they've also marketed this identity where it's cool to be a nerd now, but only a certain type of nerd. You got to be
surface level nerd.
Yeah, you got to be that nerd who has all the Funko Pop dolls, you know? It knows every single comic book character by name and, you know, has all that stuff. You can be a comic book nerd, but not like a real comic book nerd, because I got to tell you, I haven't seen one of these people who are like, oh, did you just see that last Marvel movie? Holding a single comic book, honestly.
No, exactly. It's crazy. It's like Avengers Endgame made $2.89 billion. The Avengers comic run was like selling like in the thousands. You know, I mean, like I said, it's like they're pseudo fans, they're fake fans. But back to the whole the mainstream film making and the change of the landscape, because like back in the 70s, you had like films like Godfather. What's it called? Godfather, Taxi Driver, and 80s Raging Bull, a lot of Scorsese stuff. You know, Apocalypse Now for 70s, 80s, like these really dark, challenging adult films that they were the highest grossing films that year. Gone with the Wind is a fucking 4-hour drama film, and that's considered the blockbuster at that time. But it was still, very resonant, very deep, had high advanced, old school Hollywood filmmaking. And didn't treat, you know, his audiences like idiots, and respected their level of understanding of cinematic language. And they made a lot of fucking money back then, right? But people went to go and see them. But I think once it hit, you know, Star Wars came out, right? And Star Wars and Jaws, that was a big, you know, star, right? But still, there was a good balance between art house drama films, or just more artistic, high art.
You know why I respect Star Wars, the original 3 Star Wars? Why? Because it's 90% practical effects. I think that visual effects, especially CGI, has ruined a lot of the mainstream filmmaking for a lot of it, because it's like, okay, we shoot this crazy action scene and then we just fix it in post. That whole thing of fix it in post. I know that it's a lot more complicated than it sounds, and I'm not bashing any VFX artists. Yeah. But it's one of those things where you don't actually have to think through, how are you going to make this shot work?
That depends. Physically. That depends. Bad visual effects, yes. Yeah. I agree. But then, like, I know you had your complaints about the sandworms and stuff, and Dune and stuff, but that one actually does, like, good. For me, I think that's a good visual effect, because they actually had like an on-set reference, and then like and before they made the visual effects shot, they looked at different type of layerings. They took pictures of different type of animals and composite it into the visual effects thing. Yeah. But good visual effects artists always have some type of practical element on set as reference. Yes. Especially when it comes to lighting, right? Whatever, like, because like the lighting has to reflect there's natural world elements.
But I'm just talking about like in Avengers, where they've got there's like a famous one where you know, they've got a broken up freeway, and they show like the before and then the after shot of it.
Oh, you're talking about Avengers 1, right?
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's like literally the entire set is just green screen, and the only areas that they actually have that physically are set are just broken pieces of the freeway, and not even the whole freeway.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's very lazy. For Marvel films, that tend to do that. That's why I was and
it just doesn't look as good. It looks fake. It does. It does. And you can tell. I mean, you don't see it, but your mind sees it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think like for CGI, computer generated effects, it can look, and this all. I know, audience, this will all tie back to Wes Anderson.
It really does. I know this is a complicated conversation, but yeah.
Like I said, CGI, I don't think it's bad. It's a tool, right?
It's a tool.
It's a tool that's been used improperly. Like David Fincher uses CGI for like small little effects to just enhance a scene. It was mostly practical, shot on location. But let's just say like certain things like CGI, like he wants a blood splattered a certain way, but you can't do that practically. But he does the CGI, but it does it so well and seamlessly, right? Like it's planned ahead of time. When you add it as a tool to invisible effects to enhance, like 1917, have you seen that film?
1917.
The one take World War One film.
Yeah, I watched that a while ago. Was that 2015?
Yeah, but that one has a lot of invisible CGI effects. Like you know that scene where he's walking across the trench to try to get to that stuff.
Yeah.
So you know, like obviously there's a camera, right? But the camera was on a 4-wheeler truck following the guy, but then you don't see any of the wheel tracks.
Yeah.
So what they did is that they shot that entire scene with the crane without the person for one time, exact same motion, and then they shot it with the 4-wheeler. And what they did is they used CGI and composite that onto the tracks to get rid of it. And that's good.
That's good use of CGI right there. It's a poor workman that only carries a hammer.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really my philosophy on it. It's that if you just are like, oh, we'll just fix it with CGI, or oh, just because CGI is the easiest way to accomplish something, doesn't necessarily mean it's the best way to do it. You know?
And there's some things you can't do with practical, like, and it's better with CGI. Like, okay, do you like the Planet of the Apes films?
Yeah, those are good films.
Yeah, but people think, oh, CGI for that film. But if you look, like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, you know the Caesar's home that he built with what's it called, for his family and stuff? The entire set was practical. The only CGI were the apes, which had to be CGI to look good, right? And also they had the best, which, oh shit, did you heard, by the way, Weta Digital, the guy, Peter Jackson's VFX company for the Planet of the Apes and Lord of the Rings and shit, he sold the company.
Wait, really?
Yeah, to Unity. The guys who made the Unity game engine. Yeah,
did he also like sell Weta Workshops or just?
It's everything, but they're gonna be still allowed to 'cause I think it's a video game engine company.
Yeah.
And it's actually kind of cool, like the sale, but they're still gonna allow Weta to make visual effects for movie companies.
Okay, I was a little worried good, because they're probably one of the best, effects houses that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got like ILM that's still. Is ILM still around doing stuff?
Yeah. ILM is owned by Disney though. Because George Lucas owned.
They were good.
Yeah, I think they do the best with what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, CGI is a tool that you should use to enhance film, not get lazy. Like, they say Christopher Nolan doesn't like CGI. On multiple accounts, he says, no, I do like CGI. He uses a lot of CGI in his films, but they're all small and invisible. And he says that he doesn't want to use green screen and blue screens because he says that it makes for lazy filmmaking.
It does.
Right.
It does.
And he said it's more fun to just do it on set. And sometimes it's cheaper,
And guess what? You also get a better performance out of your actors.
They're not looking at tennis balls.
Yeah. When you've got a physical set, they can get into the feel of who their character is and what they're doing a lot better. And you get a lot better performances out of it. And I think that's where it's actually good to go into Wes Anderson a little bit.
Because he famously, he does use CGI a little bit, right? But it's mostly practical effects or like stop motion. And it adds a certain type of tactile charm to his films, right? And then I think and once we get into this is he's like even more so than Christopher Nolan and even Denis Villeneuve, because I know in Blade Runner 2049 he used like model sets and stuff, which is cool. But in in French Dispatch, which we'll get into later, it was 99% practical, but it was just like digitally compacted afterwards with all practical elements that he used into a very seamless fashion. And
you could tell that they were sets. You could tell that he wasn't trying to make it look like a real place.
Yeah.
But that improved the content of this film.
Yeah.
I think significantly. And that's what I meant earlier when I said it feels like you're watching a movie.
Yeah.
And that's something that I want to feel.
It feels like you're actually watching people who worked hard on a set. There's actual production design. Like when it's all CGI, it's not really you're watching. It's not even, it's still technically a film, but what you're watching, instead of a production crew making a film, you're watching just a visual effects house making a film, right? And
you're watching Frozen with real people, and the rest.
Like, what's the difference between that and like animated? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there is difference, but
no, I mean, it's... no, actually, because Bumblebee. Have you seen that movie?
Bumblebee, is that the Transformers shooting
Yeah.
one? Yeah,
No, okay.
I stopped
All-
watching
all-
the Transformers franchise after the second one.
All of them are shit except Bumblebee.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
but then like
I might have to go back and watch it then.
like, do you like the 1980s Transformers series?
The animated one, right?
Yeah. Like, the Gen 1, the super blocky one. That's my
That's
favorite
fun,
style.
right?
So Bumblebee actually brings that back.
Okay.
Everybody has the original design, and guess what? The first 15 minutes actually takes place in Cybertron during the midst of the Cybertron between the Autobots versus the Decepticon war, and it's amazing. It's all animated in CGI, obviously, because you can't actually build out Cybertron, and it looks really cool and stuff like that. But
Wes Anderson would have built it out.
yeah, he would have built. Oh yeah, he would have
yeah.
stop motion. He would have cost every hour to get the fucking animated with fucking puppets and shit and shooting guns. Pew pew pew. And maybe that'll be the sound effects. But but he was saying that like he wants to make he actually wants to make a film. Travis Knight. He's the CEO of Leica Animation Studios, stop motion. He directed that film, but he actually said that he would actually love to do a full Cybertron film about the war for Cybertron. But he said that he wouldn't call it live action though. He would call it's an animation movie, because essentially what's happening is like a lot of these VFX. It's essentially just live, like a Marvel film. Sometimes they're just basically animation films, but with live action elements.
And I want to make it clear, I don't have anything against animated films. There's some great animated films out there. How to Train Your Dragon, for one, is one of the greatest animated films of all time. And no matter what you guys want to tell me,
criminally underrated.
It is.
I don't understand how Shrek fucking 4 made more money than How to Train Your Dragon. It's insane.
It's because they had Smash Mouth.
It's so it just irritates. Oh my gosh, Despicable Me is $1 billion franchise.
Trash.
But How to Train Your Dragon can't get into half of that. Fuck you guys. Fucking watch good animated shit.
Yeah.
All right, but okay, so back.
So I'm what I'm saying is that I do enjoy and I appreciate animated films, but I feel like when you do primarily CGI stuff and you want to make it feel like it's still real, then it takes away a lot of what animation brings to the table.
Yeah. And I get that. And that's why since we're getting to animation, let's just talk about, I know I said Bottle Rocket earlier, but let's talk about his animated flicks for now. And I think my favorite animation films that came on last year's were from Leica Studios, and even more from them, Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs are some of my favorite films, actually, period, from like the past 10, 15 years. And those are directed by Wes Anderson with stop motion animation, and all practical. I'm pretty sure there's some CGI elements in something, but all like it's.
I mean, when you're doing stop motion, you have to use CGI. I mean, there's CGI touch-ups all over the place. Like if you look at like Kubo, which
they use CGI touch-ups. Yeah.
I mean, you have
from
to.
Leica. That fucking fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. That tangibility to his animation stuff, it really has a certain a tactile charm to it that makes this film unique and stands out from the other 3D animation films that come out from like whether it's Disney Animation Studios, Pixar Studios, DreamWorks Studios. And it's kind of creates like when you make like stop. That's what the unique thing about stop motion is that they're impervious to time aging. Maybe the story is, but the animation quality never degrades.
Yeah,
it never degrades because there's only so much you can advance stop motion, and as a result, in terms of comparison, you'll never think that it's looked worse over time. Yeah, but with CGI with constant improvements all the time, it makes previous examples look worse.
Well, and the great thing about stop motion and what I would call practical animation, I guess that's what I would term it, any animation that you're doing that's actually using practical elements instead of digital elements, even when it does look bad, like if you look at King Kong, right? Yeah. Where they used a lot of practical animation to animate King Kong through stop motion. It actually looks good even though it's bad. Yeah. I agree with that. You see these big monsters and you can see the human touch that went into them. Yeah. It's not clean, it's dirty, it's raw, it's beautiful. That's what makes cinema, is that you can feel the human touch. You can feel the emotion that's behind something.
Right.
And that's something that you get out of all Wes Anderson films. And even, especially in his animated films,
Yeah.
because you feel that touch right there on every character's face, on every smile, on every movement, on every little piece of trash on the ground. Isle of Dogs, another one of my favorite films when it comes to animated stuff. Fantastic Mr. Fox, I do enjoy it, but it's not really up there as high on my list.
Oh, for you,
but,
For me, I put it pretty equal with Isle of Dogs because one is just I'm a big Roald Dahl fan, so for me, I think it's like a perfect adaptation of that. Like I don't think it could be done any better, and it's like, and one of my criticisms, it's not even a criticism, it's just like something I tend to notice. Because Miles and I, we just went through like 4 Wes Anderson films today. And we were like, wow, his film's great.
Plus
feel long.
The French Dispatch last night.
Yeah, so five this weekend. We're just on a huge Wes Anderson binge. But they feel long.
They don't feel too long, though.
No, they don't feel too long. There's a difference
between a film feeling long and a film feeling like it's, kind of overstayed its welcome. And it's like, okay, just finish up now.
Yeah, there's a film that feels kind of long, like Wes Anderson, or films that feel like a Zack Snyder film, where it's 4 hour plus and it's a different aspect ratio and, fuck you. I will say, okay, let's get into his stuff, right? Like his filmmaking, right? Both his live action and his stuff. And when we kind of break it down, is that he has very like with his humor and the dialogue and his Euro cinema influences, has a very staccato like movement to his characters, their dialogue patterns, and also their movement, right? And with stop motion, because stop motion, they basically what they do is they just move a little bit, take a picture, move a little bit, take a picture, or video record, right? And everything, and they just match it up in post production, right? And that's very staccato like in filmmaking, right? And so that perfectly fits his staccato like where he talks about, I had a mother, she was 19. It was after she tried to stab me in birth, I realized I really love her and she's my mother for life. Like that's a very Wes Anderson like thing. With stop motion, that kind of works like that with like the way the characters move and shit like that, or the characters, they don't, because stop motion is hard for them to move around a lot, so they usually just stay in one place and their mouths just move a little bit. And so and that's a Wes Anderson film. Even live action, they just stand in one place, very picturesque, perfectly symmetrical, and just look to the camera, speak, and then look to the other characters.
Yeah,
and that works.
Have you seen how they did the facial elements for Isle of Dogs?
Oh, it's called. Oh yeah. Oh, well, we're talking about Fantastic Mr. Fox first.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Isle of Dogs, because it had human faces. Yeah. I found it more interesting the way that it was done. But
I know. Okay. Well. Okay. I know. I totally forgot. But I know. Like have you seen Anomalisa? Charlie Kaufman's stop motion film.
Yeah.
Like in that one, like they just replaced the bottom half of the character's mouth constantly, and for them just to show the mouth stuff and moving, so it's more fluid. I think in Fantastic Mr. Fox, I know they use real fur or some type of material on their on the stop motion. They didn't use clay.
Yeah. Oh, that's the other thing about stop motion and fur that I just find so beautiful. It's like as they move, the fur doesn't stay in one place, and especially for all of you who have watched old King Kong movies, you saw between each frame the fur's just like flying all over the place basically. Yeah. And that adds a lot of character in between frames where you're like feeling kind of that jarring, and it doesn't feel quite natural, but that unnatural feeling is what makes it feel real. Yeah. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but
that it does make sense. Like, and especially in even more than Leica, where it's I keep on using this word tactile, but okay, I'm trying to think of a different word. I say tangible too. Whatever, fuck it. Yeah. What's called? We don't have a
tangible is a good word.
Yeah, tactile, tangible nature to his stuff by using real fur and fiber instead of just usually clay, because even with clay, it has a more manufactured feel to it. But then with when you put like real world elements, like if you're wearing a cotton suit and you're actually giving cotton suits to like Mr. Fox, like it immerses you more into it, because when you get like a camera that like what's called with a super long lens and just really takes like a close-up look of their thing, you see all the fur because like the light hits it differently than clay, because clay does not like have a certain shine or glow to it, and that's really cool, and I like that about his animation films, like being different from even other stop motion shit. and once again, it fits his filmmaking so much because it's like, you know, he has his humor, staccato, didactic, but yeah, at the same time, it's unexpected. Like he would set up things that is delivered very straight, but the content is so ridiculous. But then and it has a punchline that doesn't feel like a punchline, and it sucker punches you with like, you know, the random thing with like a random element where it's like you know in Fantastic Mr. Fox where like they break into the first chicken farm where she's like, oh, I hate you, I don't like when Mrs. Fox, I hate you, why'd you do this? He's like, well, you're gonna get us killed again. And Mr. Fox says, I can't just do it, I'm just a wild animal. And her punchline is, I'm pregnant. It's like, oh
yeah.
Like it's like that way.
And then that's also another element that I've seen a lot in Wes Anderson's films, are the false punchlines.
Yeah.
Where it's like he'll hit you with a punchline and it doesn't feel like it really hits, but then he follows that up immediately afterwards with the real punchline, and you're like, so it catches you off guard in that that sense, because you feel like the joke's done,
right? And
then he actually finishes it.
Like after that punchline is given, they get caught. Yeah, right? It's like, oh, if we leave and blah blah blah. Yeah, and then and like what's it? It's harsh cuts. He does harsh cuts on purpose, right? And not even with an audio cue, right? Where like a lot of different like smash cut, like they do that in like lesser filmmakers and shit. His is like very abrupt cut without audio transitions, and what's it called? And it kind of makes it funnier, right? Because it's almost as if we're like in this weird state of mind and we're just jumping from place to place, and it fits with animation so well because it's like title cards. Right, being moved and stuff, and oh my god, just the Fantastic Mr. Fox, like, you know, the sets they build, whether it's like the dirt or remember when they're all digging, like we gotta dig, like that was just done really nice, or like you know, the smoke effects, which they use cotton balls instead, and then the tree, obviously the tree and the three farms, just really cool shit. Let's go. Oh, okay. Do you want to have anything else to add before we go to Isle of Dogs? Which is actually, you know, now I'm thinking about it, it might be, I like it more than Fantastic Mr. Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really have much more to add on Fantastic Mr. Fox. Out of the Wes Anderson films, it's one of the films that I have seen the least because I watched it once and basically...
Do you have the criterion for that?
Yes, I do. I just haven't watched it.
Dude, why didn't you tell me? I would have been told down to watch it again. It would have been our sixth Anderson film we've watched. But
then we wouldn't be recording until like 7 a.m. tomorrow if we just watched through all of them.
we were so close to watching Moonrise Kingdom and Darjeeling Limited and stuff.
Yeah, we were this close. We were about to, but then I was like, I got to sleep at some point tonight. So, yeah.
So, what's it called? I that film kind of grows on me, not gonna lie. I think one of the best. I think it's one of the best looking animation film until Isle of Dogs came out. In terms of stop motion, but
Isle of Dogs basically feels like it could have been a real Wes Anderson film. It could have been a live action Wes Anderson film with literally people dressed up as dogs, and I would have bought it.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I mean, the style translates. You know, if you look at the set design, which it's weird to say set design for, you know, little miniatures that all this is being done on, but if you look at the set design and the way that all the characters move throughout the film and just kind of the beats of the film, it feels very similar to if you were watching, you know, The French Dispatch, or Grand Budapest Hotel, or Life Aquatic, or something like that. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. It's and that's why I think like his transition to animation works so well, because his live action films feel like animation films.
They feel like a dollhouse. It feels like he's got like these little doll people, and he's moving them around, and like, oh, what story do these two have? And then, oh, wait, this person over here wants to get in on this story too.
And the camera,
it works well.
And the way he moves his camera feels like an animation film sometimes. Like, it's unnatural. Like, it's really hard. Right?
Well, I mean, he's got a lot of flat shots, a lot of symmetrical shots, and then a lot of
which it was just like a lot of stop motion does that.
Yeah, and it's like, I can't call it breaking breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah. Oh no. It's not.
But he cuts off the fourth wall, and you know, he'll pan around from room to room through walls.
Oh yeah,
and things like that. And it works out really well. So it's like,
because like
you're seeing like a vignette.
Right. In film school, they usually try to say we don't you don't want your audience to know that it's a film, right?
Mm-hmm.
You there's this unspoken rule that you try to immerse them much as possible that by putting in a lot of realism to this thing. He says, "Fuck that! It's gonna be surrealistic as fuck. You're gonna see the edges. You're gonna see the cardboard. You're gonna see the sets, and it's like kind of like. Have you seen Dogville by any chance? That Lars
Dogville?
von Trier.
No, I haven't. I haven't watched much Lars von Trier, unfortunately.
He's a weird filmmaker.
Yeah.
But he has a film called Dogville where it's literally in like pre-production they would it's like a blank, like in a production house, it's like a blank ground, and they would just like draw numbers on like, oh, so this is a house. 1 is a house. Number 2 is the tennis courts or something like that, and then like, they would film on like that, and then they'll build on top of the numbers. So Dogville's like that, but but they don't build the sets. It's just the numbers. And there's like diagrams on the ground that show like where they should walk. And there's like an overhead camera at all times showing. Like
that's kind of great. I kind of want to watch that now.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. Yeah, and his films are like that, but actually they're sets. There's actually sets. So like, with Isle of Dog, I think that one's like I think he took everything he learned from his live action filmmaking and Fantastic Mr. Fox and brought it up to another level with building, his version of Japan and also his version of Dog Island, Japan.
Yeah.
And the dogs and the fur takes it one step further. The human animation, you want to get into that real quick? Oh, yeah, the BTS.
Oh, yeah. So, with the human animation, I forget what it was right now.
They just replaced the head, right?
Yeah.
They just replaced the heads and stuff.
But it's just very interesting looking at any stop motion animation and looking at the faces. But if you look at the facial expressions in Isle of Dogs, one of the things that I noticed watching it is that they feel emotive. It's that emotion. Sometimes it's hard to capture that. Yeah. And there's very few actual practical animation studios that are able to capture that. Yeah, in the faces, and I thought that it was excellently done. Oh yeah.
I agree with that. And then like the stop motion and like the way it's also some of the best lip sync, for any animation stuff.
Which lip syncing that is very hard because literally they have to record it beforehand. Yeah. And then painstakingly they basically plot out the mouth motions that the mouth's got to make in order to talk about that on each frame. And so you'll get a stack of sheets that's, 600, 700 pages long for a scene. Yeah. And then painstakingly, you need to flip through each sheet and change all the mouth movements for each of the characters, for each frame in the film, every time that you do it, and cycle it through so that it syncs up really well. And that's why, there's a lot of movies that don't use realistic mouths for stop motion animation, because you can get away with having 3 or 4 different mouths that you use, and you can leave a mouth in the same position for 3 or 4 frames and then switch it, and you don't have to move it as many times. Yeah I agree with that, which I think is also another benefit, I think, of doing practical animation.
It's a lot easier.
Well, no, I mean, it's a benefit as in I think it looks better in some cases, because when it feels just unnatural enough, it feels better.
Right, because you feel like there's a human element actually working on in that stuff, which he does well in his shit. Yeah. Guy, Isle of Dogs, it's just like, dude, the scene where they're making sushi? Like that, just like, by the way, he loves food. We'll get into his obsession with food with his live action stuff. But like, they were just making sushi and they're just making the works and stuff like that. It's like, I think that's like one of the most beautifully animated scenes ever, because that's hard for stop motion animating with food. Very easy in CGI. Not easy. It's obviously a lot of work, but then in fucking stop motion, because you have to make it look fluid, right? And move and soft and stuff, and they probably use different materials. And
and it's hard to make mechanical motion look fluid too. Which that's when you're actually changing things in the set. There's a couple ways to do it. Either you have the same prop in, 10 or 15 different stages of what needs to happen, and then you say, okay, this is going to happen over 15 frames. Yeah. Or so adds up to being like, well, because do you know what the frame rate was? Or they aren't called frames, are they?
Like shots per second or something.
Yeah, that
I
they
totally-
used for it. I forget what they call that because were they doing it like every other frame
Yeah,
or were they doing it?
I totally forgot.
Yeah,
I know.
but look that up because it's interesting because
Well, I know in 2D animation they actually do just call it frames, right? Like that's
Yeah.
why that's how animators get paid in Japan.
Yeah.
Where they get paid per frame, or like
or are they panels or
kind of.
I forget
sometimes.
what they call
Yeah.
them.
Well, panels
But
is
yeah.
for comics and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and graphics. Yeah.
But
What's it called?
Yeah.
Well, they do use a term.
So there's some animations where they do the base animation happens every 2 frames, and then they have overlay stuff for like effects of like gunshots or things going off every single frame, and that just kind of cuts down on the animation budget a little bit. But yeah. Long story short, I forgot what I was getting to. So you can either have a ton of those little props that are in different stages that you need them to be at throughout the process of, making whatever's happening, like making the food, or you can physically do it with clay where you roll it up, which is impossible pretty much to do fluidly.
Yeah.
So most of the time it's just tons of little tiny props that need to be almost exactly the same and just slightly
They're
different.
slightly different
Yeah.
to create the extra fluid motion,
And
which is like a lot of dedication to the craft, and it's more admirable. I know
3D
technically
printers have helped a lot with it too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, which I think 3D printers, the biggest industry that they have helped with is stop motion animation. And I don't think a lot of this stop motion animation that we've had recently could have been done without them.
Right. You know what sucks is that even though with all this innovations and helping with stop motion has like really slowed down.
Well, it's expensive to do. I mean,
No, it's not. Compared to 3D animation and stuff, it's much cheaper. It's much cheaper. Like, one of the most expensive stop motion
it also has a
animation
big
films.
skill barrier to it too.
Right.
'Cause, I mean, there's only probably 2 or 3 studios in the world that can do adequate stop motion animation.
Right. But there used to be more.
There used to be more.
But then like people stopped watching them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, fuck you, audiences. You smooth brain fucks.
Yeah, not all. I mean, I am a big fan of Wallace and Gromit. I thought that was great stop motion, but it does look like older stop motion in that claymation style.
Yes.
That's what everybody thinks of when they hear stop motion
And
animation.
you're like, oh, old is bad, and that's bad.
Yeah, and
that's
like,
that's a terrible mindset when it comes to this.
Unfortunately,
And we're losing out on a whole method of animation.
Yeah, because how many of you in the audience have watched Kubo? How many of you have watched Isle of Dogs or Fantastic
Very small.
Mr. Fox?
Yeah.
Which all 3 are just brilliant movies.
Yeah.
So, sorry for ranting all the time whenever I come on this podcast, but I've got very strong opinions about.
I'm glad Isle of Dogs actually made apparently it made a good amount of profit.
Yeah.
Out of those 3, it's the only one that made profit.
Well, that's because it was about dogs. Everybody loves dogs.
Yeah, and I think like the budget was relatively kept because I know Kubo, like remember that giant skeleton, and that like that's it, I think it broke the Guinness World Record for biggest stop motion puppet.
Yeah.
And like that was just, dude, that film production was like 10 out of 10. We'll talk about Leica one day and have a whole Leica episode.
Yeah. Well, let's do a Leica versus Weta episode.
What the fuck? That
would be fun.
What Weta animation? Pure just Weta only animation films that they've done. That would be hard. If it was like Leica versus Disney, that makes sense.
Well, what was it? Early Man was a recent Weta, I believe.
No, that's Aardman.
Oh,
Aardman
was that
animation?
Was that Aardman? I thought that
Weta
was the one that did all the.
They sometimes get helps of
Yeah.
ILM and Weta for any CGI elements.
Yeah,
but primarily stop motion is done by the animation studio, so Aardman, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, viewers. I was mistaken there.
Dumb fucking bitch.
Ugh.
I'm just kidding. No, I'm sorry. I get it. You're dumb fucking bitch.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so I'm just kidding, Miles.
Hey, I know.
It's my mean Asian coming out. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's yeah. So like, please, people, we implore you to go and watch more stop motion animation films or diversify. Just don't only watch the next Disney fucking film, Encanto or whatever. It might be good. I'm not saying that's gonna be bad, or like the next Pixar film. Like fuck, there's a 2D animation film from I think a Middle Eastern country called Flea or something. It's like it's a weird janky 2D animation film and stuff like that. And people are saying it might actually
Flea?
Yeah. It's I'll show you the trailer after. It's really wild.
I might have watched it.
Or Rust. I forgot. Or not Rust. It's not Rust, but yeah, it's this Middle Eastern film called Flea. And like watch films like that, please. Like people just go out, diversify your thing. Even Mitchell's versus the Machines, which has this weird 3D animation style on Netflix. Watch it. Support that shit. Just diversify your windows. And enough of my rants. Let's go back to Wes Anderson, his live action shit. Starting off with what's it called? Maybe not just like beat by beat, but let's kind of go into his things.
Okay, let's talk about
like
Bottle
his
Rocket and Rushmore, which were his two earliest films.
Yeah. So with Bottle Rocket, it was a short film made with Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson. Owen Wilson being Wes Anderson's roommate and collaborator. And that's just, and like I said,
and also Andrew Wilson.
Oh yeah, Andrew Wilson.
Yep.
Yes. And Bob.
Yep, and Bob, whose actual real name is Bob.
Yeah, it's and James Caan is in it too. That's wild.
Yeah. I have no idea how they got James Caan. Maybe he just like was teaching, guest lecturing at one of their classes.
And he's just like, you want to make a film? Yeah. Made for $5 million. Only made 500,000. Apparently, it bombed so hard.
Really?
That Owen Wilson was thinking about joining the Navy. Thank God they did it. They made Rushmore soon after.
It literally made the careers for Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, and Wes Anderson.
Yeah. Well, it started it off, and that's just make it.
They wouldn't have been discovered without it, though.
Right. Why? Technically, his breakout film was Rushmore for Wes Anderson, because Bottle Rocket bombed so hard. I mean, in retrospect,
yeah,
like Martin Scorsese discovered the film, helped promote it and stuff. Good for Martin Scorsese. He does that a lot. He finds like films that nobody watched, but he's like, wow, that's cool, and just promotes the fuck out of it.
Yeah, listen to Martin Scorsese. If he says a film is good, it's probably
good. Yeah. That guy's like, he watches films from like all different genres and regions, except superhero films, which Miles is already like
Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
If you ever want to just like kick it and talk about how shit superhero films are, just give me a call. I'm so down.
It's me, Miles. Superhero films suck. Sucky suck.
Yeah. Except for, good ones. There are some good ones out there.
What are the good ones, Miles?
Okay. So Invincible, good superhero animated.
Movies.
Okay. Movies. That's hard. It's hard. Deadpool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Logan?
Audience, you're going to hate me for this. I didn't really enjoy Logan.
What?
I like Days of Future Past better than Logan.
Whoa!
Yeah. I know, right? Plot twist. Yeah.
Oh.
I watched that movie back when I had trash taste, though. So.
Okay. You know what? This could be a 3-hour conversation.
Yep. Yeah. But, no more superhero talk.
By the way, if you guys want to see Wes Anderson direct a superhero film, watch Patrick A. Williams' video. What if Wes Anderson directed the X-Men? It is so on point. It makes me want to see an actual Wes Anderson superhero directed film. Or like directed
Wes Anderson
film.
should have directed Dune. He could have handled it.
Okay, no.
He could have handled the ensemble cast.
You're so fucking wrong. We're so fucking wrong on that. No, I disagree. Denis Villeneuve, fantastic job. 10 out of 10. Okay, so Bottle Rocket, it's interesting. It's basically about like a couple of people. What's it called? Owen Wilson and Luke Wilson play characters who are misguided thieves who wants to plan heists.
Well, I wouldn't really say they're playing misguided thieves. I'm saying,
well, they are misguided thieves. Literally, they steal shit, and
that's not really who their characters are, though.
No.
Yes,
but
they
this
participate in theory.
This is like a log line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I just give like a one log line to the thing, of course, that's not all their stuff.
Yeah,
but
it's not even really part of it because I don't really even consider them to be.
Yeah, they are misguided. Like the way they're handling the heist, the way they're doing the heist, and on top of that, like the different heists they go after, and then them like because they're heists, Bob got robbed of his entire house at the end. Yeah. That's I think guidance of the highest degree. Like, and also remember at the end, like,
but look
he went back.
Why are they stealing? What are their reasons behind it? I mean,
Oh, I know. That's that's the whole point of us getting into
okay.
it. Yeah. This is just like a log line.
Okay,
fine. For
Give your log line.
People to say, I already did.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a brief synopsis about that. I think Luke Wilson plays Anthony, and Owen Wilson plays it's not Digby or Dumby.
It's Digby.
Oh, well, yeah. Owen Wilson's
Okay,
character.
we got to look up what their names are for this.
All right, we'll just call it Dumby. Dumby for now.
Yeah,
What's it
Dumbo.
called?
Can we call him Dumbo?
Yeah. What's it called? Yeah. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Okay. So, yep. So it's about the two Wilson brothers who aren't playing brothers in this movie.
Oh, Dignam.
Dignam.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
okay. Yeah, my bad. Today's because this is kind of our loose episode where I don't have cheat sheets.
Yep. So Dignam and Anthony, right?
Yeah. With Bob.
And Bob. Yeah. So we don't meet Bob right away. So film starts out with Anthony in a funny farm, insane asylum, whatever you want to call it, mental health hospital. I guess that's the PC name for it nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has Digby. Dignam.
Yeah.
Weird ass name. Is outside of his window and has a plan to help Anthony escape.
Yeah.
Because he wants to kind of be noticed by Anthony is the sense that I'm getting. He wants to be noticed and respected.
Well, not even just by Anthony. He wants to be like by his peers and stuff like that. Because he gets ridiculed. Like even by Bob's brother. Remember later on?
Well, Future Man thinks that everybody's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
You know, he's Dignan plays kind of this not very smart, you know, not the smartest person around.
Yeah.
And kind of not necessarily lazy, but very down on his luck.
Yeah.
He can't really find a stable job that's able to work with his personality. He seems to constantly have kind of conflicts with wanting to do things his own way. And that leads to him basically trying to
settling on the con life.
Yeah. Be the impressive guy. He wants to be like, ooh, I'm going to be, you know, just a con man, you know? I'm going to be that cool, suave dude because he's met, you know, a guy named Mr. Henry, who is this cool, suave individual who has it all, has everything that Digman wants to be. And then he's like, I want to do that. And he's like, okay, how did he get there? Well, it was through being a thief. And he finds that out. So he tries
to replicate it.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's really trying to replicate it. Or
not trying to replicate it, but
prove to Anthony
not
that
replicate that lifestyle,
but
like replicate that level of recognition or fame and stuff.
He wants to be seen as that type of person, especially by his peers, Bob and Anthony. And so you see him try to break out Anthony.
More Anthony, less on Bob.
Yeah,
because Bob, he doesn't.
Yeah.
There's this interesting subplot where like he ridicules Bob, is disgusted by Bob, hates Bob, and then at the end like sincerely loves Bob and they hug it out. Like there's a funny scene where he like, and we talk about this punchline or the humor of Wes Anderson, staccato like fake punchline, real punchline. So like it's literally like, you know, it's like, yeah, in the backyard, you know, hey, we don't sissies, we don't end our fights and hugs and stuff like that. We punch it out, and then Bob literally sucker punches.
Yeah, just right there. It's
Owen
great.
Wilson, and then Owen Wilson at the end is like, okay, you know what? Let's settle this with a hug. That's the actual punchline. Yeah, they have a weird relationship. I love that.
But basically, and Anthony's like up in his room at the mental health hospital, and he knows that this is going down, and he has checked himself out of the mental health hospital because he was there totally voluntarily. And the last thing that he does before he leaves is he is like, yeah, I'm trying to help my buddy with his self-esteem. He planned out this whole break me out of here thing. He doesn't realize that this is, you know, I'm here voluntarily. Yeah. And the doctor's like, oh, okay. And just kind of lets him go through with it. And he just climbs out the window in the most obvious way possible. Like, definitely would have gotten caught if they were even trying to keep him secured there.
And I think this film has like this real, does really well with self-perception and reality perception really well. But in a very humorous way. Yeah. Right. Like how Dignam is like, at the end when he finally gets caught, he's like, please give this to me. Right. Because he wants to fulfill his actual self-perception of a glorified thief or a glorified heist member by going in, running from the cops, getting arrested. And he was happy. Like that was like what he really wanted to do.
He wanted to get beat up by the cops. He wanted to get caught subconsciously because he wasn't doing well on the outside.
Yeah.
That wasn't the place for him.
Yeah.
You know, he couldn't make it work in this real world. And he felt that maybe by going to prison, he would start to get some respect from other people.
Yeah.
And you see that kind of develop. And especially with Anthony trying to placate a little bit some of his fantasies, because he feels like he has, you know, he owes something to Digman.
Right. And that's a recurring thing for at least his first two films, where self-perception with and contrast with society's perception of them.
Mm-hmm.
With this film and Rushmore, and we'll get to Rushmore soon. But even what's it called? And Anthony, who's the most stable character, who has a firm grasp of how society and everything perceives. But then one thing that he has conflict with him is how he perceives his relationship with the maid.
Mm-hmm.
And how the maid views their relationship. By the way, there's a huge subplot between him and the maid.
Well,
and that actually takes up half the film. Where like he views like, you know, the film as this kind of like getaway romance that we could be together forever. And the maid actually is a more practical version of it, where probably how society sees it is like this is like a one weekend romance until the end.
Well,
But,
and he's all, you know, gung-ho and ready to escape from his lifestyle that he's in. And you even see a scene where he's like, yeah, I had my mental breakdown because I realized that I didn't want to be going to yacht clubs and deciding if I wanted to tan on the beach or go jet skiing or do all these, you know, kind of more elitist type things that him and his society that he was a part of were participating in. Yeah. And because of that, he wanted to find something completely opposite, completely different.
And Grace, his sister, looks down on him. You know?
Yeah. And so, and you can tell that he had a fairly upper class, you know, upbringing, and that he's playing a character who is well-to-do, has, you know, has some family wealth there, and was raised in a very comfortable lifestyle. Yeah. And so he's kind of seeking out something that's different than that because he feels like that lifestyle is shallow and doesn't really have meaning to it. So he goes along with what Dignam is doing. And Dignam, from what we can tell, was not raised in as comfortable of a lifestyle. No. And whereas Bob was raised in a very, very rich lifestyle. Yeah. To the point where he doesn't really understand, like, what a real job is. Right. And he's trying to figure that out throughout the film.
And that's why he takes these weird heist jobs with Dignam. What else is he going to do?
So you see those three different kind of
perspectives on how they deal with like different types of perceptions, right? Like society and self. And it's cool. It's done well. And he does it in a very entertaining fashion with his, you know, classic, like you see his early trademarks with symmetrical shots.
You don't see as much of it though.
No, not as much as before, but it's there. Like as much as the budget allows it. And you know, strong primary colors like red, yellow.
Well, you don't see any custom built sets though.
Yeah, because they had no budget.
Yeah, they didn't have the budget to do custom built sets, which that's a big thing with Wes Anderson, especially later on, is he would build a room so that he could paint it pink. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, not literally, but you know, that's kind of the feeling that you get out of a lot of the sets that he chooses and uses.
Some of his humor is still there, like, you know, what's it called? Illogical things added there, but the characters just play straight and accept it as a part of reality, like tape over their nose. The tape over their nose while doing the heist. And they're all asking, like, why do you have the tape over their nose? And then they just ignore it and just continue on. Or they put on the masks after the people they robbed already seen their faces. Stuff like that is pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I feel that that's kind of also shows throughout those interactions how confident Anthony is in who he is.
Yeah. Oh, and wait, to be fair, that's more Dignam's idea. The tape and the masks and stuff.
But the fact that Anthony's following along with it without questioning shows that he's very comfortable in who he is. He's like, okay, I don't care if I look like a fool or if I'm doing this stupid. I know who I am. And I'm fine with this, and I'm just helping my buddy out here. Yeah. Whereas Dignam just can't really figure out what he should be doing. And Anthony's just there to support him the whole time.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. What's it called? That's pretty much all I have to say about Bottle Rocket. What about, do you want to move on to Rushmore?
We should talk about just kind of Is there anything really to talk about left with Bottle Rocket?
I mean, obviously, we could, if you want to go more in depth and talk about the shots or like some moments where she's like, "Tell Anthony I love him."
Oh yeah, that was a funny movie.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, that's fucking hilarious because there's one thing it's common recurring trait in a lot of his films. Like he usually likes to incorporate different type of cultures into his film, and also like language barrier and that might even like be on a microscopic level about like lost in translation between cultures and stuff like that. But yeah, there's still some type of beauty shared, but the translation is where the beauty is lost. Where the maid is trying to tell because her English is not that good, so she tries to get her friend to translate what she says. So she tries to get her friend, her coworker, to tell Dignam, "Tell Anthony I love him." But then the guy just says,
straight translates it.
"Tell Anthony I love him." And Dignam's like, "What? You love him? Sure, okay, buddy."
Yeah, and Dignam doesn't see her ask him to do it. Yeah. So he doesn't realize this is a translation. So he's like, "Okay, dude, I'll tell him." Yeah,
that's hilarious.
It's a funny movie.
It's funny, but also like it has like social commentary added to it too.
She also calls Anthony trash floating in the wind earlier in the film.
And lost in translation.
And he says it doesn't sound as bad in Spanish.
It sounds better. Yeah. And that even ties back to like Isle of Dogs, right? Because a lot of that film is they don't put subtitles for the Japanese speaking roles,
which I think was good.
Yeah, and they said they have a translation, either their voice modulation or through an actual translator. And then you kind of see it. And it's different because like the Japanese voice actor is very passionate, very infused with emotion, but the translators are very deadpan. And then once again, I think commentating on the whole lost in translation aspect of his stuff. That's why no wonder he works well with like the Coppola family. What's it called? I don't think he's ever worked with Sofia Coppola, lost in translation director, but yeah.
Honestly, with the quality of some dubs that have been done for Japanese and Korean and Chinese animation and even live action shows, I understand just telling them, okay, do it deadpan. Because it doesn't really matter anyways, because they never seem to actually capture the proper emotions through dubs. There's a few that do, but for the most part,
they don't.
Yeah, it's very hard to capture the correct emotion while translating it.
I agree. All right, so let's get into Rushmore real quick. And with Rushmore, I think you see more of his classic trademarks, especially with the camera movements, like his pan shots.
But you don't see all of it yet.
No, not all of it.
It hasn't fully evolved. It feels like he's still kind of experimenting with what is my style.
Yeah, what is his style? What's his doing? How surrealist he could get, and what type of sets. Like he still doesn't have quite the level of set production wise that he uses in his third film that we're going to talk about, Royal Tenenbaums. But in this one, he establishes like his camera movements, right? The left to rights, the adage of text, what's called match cuts, to quickly show a character's lifestyle and quirks, which is something that we'll see later on. And if anything, I think Rushmore is like a more fine-tuned version of like what he wanted to do in Bottle Rocket in terms of his directorial style. And then, by the way, brief synopsis for someone who's never seen Rushmore. It's about Jason Schwartzman plays this is a very distilled. He plays a student enrolled in Rushmore, with one of the most prestigious schools in high schools in America, that falls in love with a British English professor. At the same time, competing with her love with Bill Murray's character,
who he's also trying to get money out of to help keep him at Rushmore. And to help him develop his career, because he wants to be a famous playwright, which he got into Rushmore through being skilled in these things. But he's also a character who doesn't do well in structured education.
Yeah, but
he all of his learning is through clubs and through activities, and that takes up so much of his life that he leaves no time for classes.
Yeah, but and I feel like he's basically a Wes Anderson surrogate, because I think that Wes Anderson was pretty much like, I mean, I maybe not as bad as him, but he did better in extracurricular activities or non-structured learning environments, and probably non-structured filmmaking too, probably. And you can tell this is a very personal film to him, like very emotionally resonant. I mean, probably, I don't know if he had a crush on an English lit maker, English lit professor.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. As much as the story kind of revolves around his crush on her,
or love, actually,
love for her. I don't really think that the story ends up being about that. I think that the
No.
story's
Well, I
more
mean,
about
it
the
is very
relationship.
important, though.
But I think
mean,
that's only there as the
literally
catalyst.
the last shot is of them two.
Yeah.
Like you can clearly tell. Like, oh, we'll get
Mhm.
into the last shot, but like you clearly tell
Yeah.
she falls in love with him at the end.
Yeah, but I think that the main reason why that's there in the film is a catalyst for the building of the relationship between him and Bill Murray's character.
And I think that's like equally as important.
Yeah.
Like, I think if anything, that's my favorite relationship in the film. Like,
It's the most
and,
important one because that's the father figure that he wishes he had,
yeah.
but he doesn't realize what that means. And then when he does,
And him accepting his actual, like,
Yeah.
you know what? And I think it's also he develops the themes of self-perception between social perception
yes,
or self-expectations versus societal expectation
Mhm.
better in Rushmore, right?
Yeah.
Like, it literally personified, like, his dad is a barber,
Mhm.
right? His dad, what's it called? I keep forgetting. His name is Max, right? Yes, man. The student,
I believe
it
so.
is Max, yeah. It's Max, right? Max's dad is a barber, but he tells everybody he's a doctor, right?
Mhm.
But then he follows.
Well, the reason why is because he's one of a few kids who is there at Rushmore on a scholarship.
Yeah.
Most of them are these rich elite kids, and he
Max
wants
Russell.
to blend in.
Yeah.
That's why he always wears a suit jacket, even though almost none of the other students do.
Exactly.
Because he wants to look, more.
Put on that persona,
Yeah.
like have other people perceive him as how he perceives himself.
Mhm.
But
And then he sees a successful businessman played by Bill
Bill Murray,
Murray,
yeah.
who also came from nothing, and he sees this is who I need to be successful in this
Yeah.
world.
and also like he falls and tries to make him his own version of a father figure,
Yes.
right? And that's like a dual contrast. Like before, he was like Bill Murray,
Mhm.
until at the end, like showing like subtle character growth. Right, he finally accepts his dad as his role as a barber, and actually tells everybody what his actual role is, and that's him choosing what's the actual reality, right?
But
Instead
that's
of
not
self-perception.
that's not until after he discovers that Bill Murray's character really wasn't who he
that's
thought
true.
he was.
Yeah, that's all the stuff. But yeah.
As he saw that facade collapse and he realized, wow, everybody just puts on faces. He decides to break the mold and stop putting on a face.
Right, and that's good.
Yeah.
What's it called? And the whole self-perception of reality,
Mhm.
and that's done really well here. It's furthermore, right? Because I think like he's honed his craft better in this film,
Mhm.
and even like when it comes to his ability with females, right? Like he believes himself to be a lady magnet, a chick magnet, right? Or like this almost Don John, right?
Mhm.
Telling people he got a hand job from a hand job with Derby's mother.
Mhm.
Or is Dirk's mother, right? Is
Uh,
it Derby or Dick or whatever?
whatever.
The
His
little
little
kid.
friend's name, yeah.
Yeah, Derby or Dick's mother. But in reality, that didn't happen, right? In reality, he's actually quite pathetic and almost like creepy stalkerish, right?
Yeah.
And also like the one girl that actually does like him, he doesn't accept that reality, and he wants that. He has self expectation of being with an older woman,
Mhm.
particularly Olivia Thirlby's English lit professor's character, and that's really cool dynamic that you see in this film.
Well, that's because he sees himself as being mature.
Yeah, a
and
mature
more
Lothario.
mature than all the other people there.
But
and that
he's if anything, he's even
know.
more immature by
Exactly.
thinking so. Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing because like he lies his way, he's deceitful. He puts on this facade only for it to be breaking down, and he's getting punished for putting that facade. Literally getting beaten up by the Irish guy
Mhm.
or Scottish guy. He's actually from Scotland. And what's it called? Or like being rejected by the professor, right? As she calls him pathetic, or what's it called? Is disgusted by his behavior later
Mhm.
on. He even gets arrested, right? By putting in this thing, and this is also the film where he gets a little bit more surrealist, right? But at the same time, showing the consequences of like some of the actions the characters take, because they're very over the top. Like he tries to build an aquarium. He ruins the brakes of Bill Murray's car.
Mhm.
Put bees and stuff like that in the hotel. Like, how did you do all that? Considering you're only 15, right? Quite resourceful.
Well, I mean, they did portray him early in the film as being the president of like 15 different clubs.
Oh no, exactly,
and everything from fencing to go-kart racing.
Exactly, and that's another surrealist element.
Yeah.
Like that's like very practical, but he's done it in a surrealist way to like kind of a surrealist realism, like
Mhm.
magical realism way, to kind of prove his point.
Yeah, the way that he tells you. Actually, this is something I can
break in
real quick. I want to say this about Wes Anderson. When they say a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Well, Wes Anderson really likes to do this thing where if he's telling you something about somebody that's just like a background character trait, he puts up a picture with about 3 or 4 words, and that really describes exactly what they were.
Exactly.
It shows their achievements or their accomplishments by painting kind of a little picture of almost a caricature of this person doing this or this person doing that. That's usually an actual shot on a camera, like live action, and it works really well. Where you can just I think there was like 10 or 15 clubs that they went through in like a 1 minute just sequence of like this club, this club, this club, and you see all those and how he's dressed differently and all the different people that he's surrounded by in each of these different clubs and activities, and it gives you a real sense of who he is as a character and where he fits in socially.
Yes. And what's it called? And I think I think you hit on the point, like nail on the head regarding with that and like how his extracurriculars is the demonstrated stuff. Fuck. And now I'm talking about this more. My rating for, because we're gonna get into ratings for all Wes Anderson at the end. What's it called? And then don't worry, people. This will not be a 5-hour podcast. It's what's it called?
I wanted it to be. Philip said no.
That's concise. You know what I mean? Reality, Miles. Reality. I'm just kidding. It's whatever. My rating is going up for this film quite a bit. I do love this film quite a bit. When I rewatched it today, it just like all the stuff that I appreciated him for has been magnified in terms of how much I love this film. And Jason Schwartzman, like what? Oh fuck! I think it still might be my favorite role from Jason Schwartzman.
He does a great job in this role.
And I guess I found out that this film is what reignited Bill Murray's career as a respectable actor within indie cinema. Yeah, like it's just like they launched his second act of his career where he starts doing more indie cinema and stuff like that because Wes Anderson.
Well, I mean, he worked with Wes Anderson for pretty much every film after this.
Yeah, and in any capacity, and it's great. It's fantastic. What's it called? Yeah, and then okay, so let's go into the final shot where we finally see character growth and the final play, basically his own version of Apocalypse Now. And we'll get into Wes Anderson and his we'll go into his trademarks, and one of these things is always like some directors like to hide their influences and just subtly show it, but Wes Anderson, like Edgar Wright, he puts his influences on his sleeves, on his shoulders. He makes it very displayed. So like he shows everybody. Oh, you guys like Apocalypse Now? I fucking love Apocalypse Now. Yep. Yeah, because I fucking love Platoon. Here's a fucking play about the Vietnam War. And that was cool. And after that play, what's it called? His facade's gone. He's showing everybody that my dad's an actual barber. He accepts, I think, the Asian female's love for him, this student, and somebody his actual age, right? And he even finally acquiesces and lets and allows Bill Murray and Olivia Thirby's Olivia Thirby, or that character, right, the professor, relationship to actually succeed and grow. And once that facade is gone, the professor, like, it very ends on like a, I think, very clear note where like she gives him a look that she never did in the entire film, where either it's like she respects him now, right, and also you could tell that in a weird way has kind of fallen for him at that moment.
Well, for the whole entire film, she was a very genuine person who was very confident in who she was.
Right. And she probably was only attracted to other people who were confident, right? Because like Bill Murray, like she broke up with Bill Murray after that facade's gone, and she realizes it's a facade. Like the marriage, like we forgot to say, he's married and he's going after the professor. Yeah. And also he hates himself, he hates what he's doing, he's drinking all the time, he's displeased with like the facade he's made, right? And then, his kids don't even talk to him, right? Yeah. The facade of a successful, happy businessman with a happy family and a happy marriage. And that's what turned her off from that relationship. But at the end, when, Max is finally dropping the facade and is completely accepting of who he is and his place in society and place in where he is in school, that's where you see that close-up of her face where she actually has fallen like for this kid. Yeah. And but I think that it might also be that she understands him now, because before she saw the facade and she knew that it was fake.
She knew that he was putting on machismo. She knew that he was putting on kind of this air, trying to be this ladies' man, and she could see through it. And
that's why
she
she was
didn't
turned
like
off,
it because
right.
she was confident in herself. But when she sees the real genuine
And her husband
him,
was like, they described her husband as the same thing too. Yeah. And then when she saw the real genuine him, she loved him. Yeah. I hope they don't make a sequel where
they won't make a sequel.
I know,
Wes Anderson movies don't get sequels, and that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. But you know, there's always that rumor on Reddit that like Rushmore 2 is happening. I'm like, no, I don't want to see Rushmore 2. Fuck no.
It was called Lady Bird.
Oh.
I'm kidding about that completely, but yeah.
What's it called? Yeah, okay, so that's all I have to say about Rushmore and stuff. Do you want to get into kind of his trademarks and stuff?
Yeah, we should probably get into his trademarks a little bit.
Yeah,
he's just.
Oh, you see,
Miles. I said the word dollhouse earlier, and that's really something that you start to see.
With Royal Tenenbaums.
Yeah, with Royal Tenenbaums I think in his next film.
Royal Tenenbaums, he's, you know, we're not going to do a breakdown of all his films because there's just be too much. But I think he cements his style, right? His visual elements of pastel coloring, pan camera movements, camera zooms, character introductions.
Yeah. Also, hand-drawn art.
Yeah, hand-drawn art and stop motion, right? So there's some stop motion, I think, or no, not in this one. In Steve Zissou, there is.
I think that there might have been one stop motion shot, and that was just towards the end when he was driving the car. I don't know if that was done stop motion or not.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you know, stuff like that, right? It's like, and usually tragic comic characters. Like he's already had that with Rushmore, but especially so with Royal Tenenbaums.
Well, and the scenery really becomes a character in of itself.
And his surrealism.
Yes. And that's how you can tell if something's surrealistic, kids. If your scenery becomes a character.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like
you know,
the environment is reflected by the character, and the character is reflected by the environment. And that's shown really well in Royal Tenenbaums. I think, if anything, I love that film. I do have one criticism. I mean, it's not even criticism. It's just something I've noticed of all his films except Rushmore. Except Rushmore. And,
let me hear it, and I will defend it to the death.
No. We'll get into that when we do ratings and stuff. But yeah. But what do you mean? You said the same thing too.
What's your criticism?
It's not even a criticism. It's just like, I've noticed.
Yeah.
They're not short. Yeah, they're not short. It's not a criticism. It's not a criticism.
But also, he does more in one movie than, you know, some do in 6 movies. You know, I get that. You know, character development wise, you get an understanding for 6 or 7 different characters for an entire ensemble cast throughout one of his films. That, you know, even though they are longer, and he does a great job developing every single character. Yeah,
I call CDE, character development efficiency. Like some people they're not very economic, and they do scenes that say the same thing as the last scene and doesn't do anything for character development. But Wes Anderson does not do that. Well, every scene involves and furthers the characters with their actions or something like that.
I think that one of the things with his style is there was this talk by author Brandon Sanderson about. Oh, yeah, you mentioned him. Okay, yes, he's one of my favorite authors. He gave a talk, and he was talking about how whenever you write a book, you're given $1, and you can spend that dollar on suspension of disbelief with your audience. And now if you do one thing, well, that's going to cost you 5 cents. Another thing, it's going to cost you 25 cents, right? But the way that Wes Anderson sets up his movies, it's that, you know, he doesn't get to start with just $1 for suspension of disbelief of his audience. Yeah. He gets to start with like $100, where the way that he shoots his scenes,
right? You automatically know it's like,
you know, it's a film
based in reality that we know of.
Yeah. And even if it is based in reality, it's not really, what you're seeing isn't really the reality that's being experienced. So when he does things for character development that can develop characters really efficiently, like you were saying, he's able to kind of do away with suspending your disbelief. So he can just show random weird shots that do develop those characters. And that's where you can get a lot of that and a lot of the understanding about your characters.
And I think that kind of goes into also like this is a thing called like film verisimilitude, which basically means like a film has to set up his own set of rules, and as long as it doesn't break them, your audience's suspension of disbelief is maintained.
Yeah,
and that's what he does.
Okay, so that's what the dollar thing's about.
Yeah,
is that
exactly,
that set of rules that you set up. Each of those rules that you set up costs a certain amount.
Yeah,
but he gets to start with so much more money because he knows how to set up his rules.
And I think he does that well, and is all very consistent and stuff like that. It's and like he does this like with his sets. I think like some of his favorite sets. Like for me, honestly, I just watched. I'm not gonna rate the French Dispatch yet, because we are gonna have a whole segment about that. But pre French Dispatch, some of my favorite sets are. I just watched it last night and this morning. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Oh,
Moonrise Kingdom still has my favorite sets.
Yes, it does. Yes, but it's just like
the
maybe
house. It's only one set, but it's just such a such a great set.
The aquatic museums, the dolphins with the cameras. Oh, and then remember that one shot where he goes through the entire submarine. Yeah, this one tracking shot and stuff. Oh, that was
and they kind of replicate that with in the French Dispatch, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, okay. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Spoiler alert: French Dispatch has the best production design, art design
French
of all his films.
Literally took something from every single one of his films.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Oh God, I love Steve Zissou, Life Aquatic, but it's never mind. It would have to be Grand Budapest.
Budapest?
Yeah, Grand Budapest probably has like the most intricate sets or looking sets.
So that's the we didn't get into this with Isle of Dogs, but I wanted to. But I also wanted to save it for later because this is something that's in Grand Budapest when he does stop motion there.
Yeah,
and pretty much all of his stop motion, then also some of his other set design that's not stop motion, is the mechanization of different elements of the set, where you've got mechanical elements moving, you've got gears and cogs, and you've got things moving on lines.
Yeah.
And it works for some reason. It looks almost Dr. Seuss-esque.
Yeah.
Like if you've ever read a Dr. Seuss book.
Yes.
It looks like a Dr. Seuss machine.
Yes.
But it looks like a realistic Dr. Seuss machine.
I agree.
As weird as that sounds. But and it just
I would
works.
love to see a Wes Anderson Dr. Seuss film.
Yes,
I think that would
Wes
be
Anderson,
great.
Next animated film you make, please make a Dr. Seuss film. Make like
that would be actually really cool.
One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, or what was the one?
Well, there's also Green Eggs and Ham, right?
No, don't remake Green Eggs and Ham.
Have they already made that?
That's overrated.
No, I know it's overrated, but I think I'd still just like to see a short
remake like the Star-Bellied Snoots or something.
Oh, okay, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be a weird one for you to do. Yeah,
that would be cool.
Yeah.
All right, so
as you can tell, I'm cultured. I've read Dr. Seuss.
I know Dr. Seuss is like I know it's so mainstream and shit, but I'm not gonna. I love the stuff.
I've got every single Dr. Seuss book from when I was a kid. I saved pretty much all my children's books, mostly because I was worried that the stuff that they would have when I finally have kids in like 20 years from now just wouldn't be as good.
You know what? I would. Oh gosh. Okay, we're not gonna get to it.
We'll talk about that another time. But yeah,
let's go. There's a lot of these. We'll talk about another time.
Yes.
Episodes. Let's go. And this was one of them. This is one of them. This is on the Miles. We have a Excel file where we put suggested episodes or dream episodes, and one of them was Wes Anderson. Mm-hmm. We finally fulfilled Miles'
3 of them were Wes Anderson. I had it broken up into 3 different sections of Wes Andersonism. But
this was like as best as we could do for now.
Yeah,
and it was so sweaty and with Wes Anderson nerd stuff that we've lost 3 of our hosts.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you guys are lucky though, because I feel like me and Philip are the 2 people who are most qualified to talk about Wes Anderson in the group.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Dude, so much. So what's it called? I think I say that I'm at my limit, but tomorrow I'll probably watch like his other 2 films.
Honestly, I'm probably gonna do the same. I haven't watched him in a while, so
yeah, it's a good. Oh, dude, today we went through like 4. Mm-hmm. Yesterday we were talking about it earlier. Fuck, it's a lot. But it's enjoyable though. It's enjoyable.
I can't even remember what we were talking about now.
We were talking about what's called. We're talking about sets. We're talking about
the set design,
and the mechanical elements of it. Yeah. And I agree. Like especially with Grand Budapest, you literally see the wheels turning when they go from hotel to hotel.
Yeah.
And then like I said, it's
the skiing scene.
Yes. Oh, I love the skiing.
Yeah, so the bobsled thing. Yeah.
I love the Grand Budapest. I love too. Mm-hmm. Fuck, that film's fantastic.
And then there was
that's the closest one he could have won for Best Picture. But I mean that year was really hard.
Well, and I mean that movie is also packed full of homages to different movies.
Yes. He has a very like okay, and you know what,
especially like the classics.
yeah, okay. So we talked about his visual elements. Let's get into his next trademark, influences, right? Like he's a fan of world cinema, especially international cinema, more so than American cinema. You know, specifically when it comes to Euro
there
cinema.
is some American
There
cinema
is,
elements
but
that he does really look at.
it's way more onto the it's way more into the Euro arts when it comes to architecture, even in just like different elements, especially the French Dispatch. When we get into that, it's like, you know, it's like, listen, for Isle of Dogs, like that's one giant homage to with like different type of Japanese Western films, or like Lone Wolf and the Cub, especially Akira Kurosawa. Like it is hardcore Kurosawa up the ass with, like, you know, designs, the language, the shots. Kurosawa, a big thing about him is that he uses weather elements to tell a story. And does he use the weather in Isle of Dogs to kind of show different things?
Well, I love how he's also he's unapologetic about you not understanding some of the stuff that's said.
Oh yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he's on his own wavelength.
Yeah,
which I love. I actually love.
Which I appreciate that so much. You know, it's one of those things, like, especially I hate going to the French Dispatch on this too, but when he does decide to translate, he will oftentimes leave things in French, and the mechanism for translation that he uses is consistent within the understanding of what's going on during the scene.
Yes.
Which we'll get into that more later, but he's great at kind of making you understand what the person's saying.
Right.
Through using thematic elements that are already introduced into the scene.
Yes, I agree with that. And you know, a couple of those films, like Moonrise Kingdom was very much influenced by even the film he said that influenced the most, like 400 Blows and different type of coming of age films. And you could definitely see that with Moonrise Kingdom, but with his Wes Anderson touch and his tableaus and everything like that, and even the way it's shot, like that. Just the aesthetic that comes from a lot of these Euro cinema is brought onto the films, whether it's, like, you know, a lot of pastel colors are in some of the more hyper realistic Euro cinema, like Paolo Sorrento is this Italian filmmaker. Oh gosh, I was gonna say, I forgot the money. I think it's like called The Great Beauty or something like that. He's a weird Italian filmmaker and stuff, or whether it's or whether it's Jean-Luc Godard's you know, signature you know, stream of consciousness jump cuts and stuff, which Wes Anderson adapts to make it his own, but it's just to show, like, either for a joke or to make to be more efficient in storytelling. Yeah, and dramatic lighting from what's called, you know, even like from films like Joan of Arc and stuff like that. It's or like close-ups and like I think a lot of his close-ups remind me of that close-up from Joan of Arc, where like she's realized she's about to die, and you know, the amount of tears that he does, and lighting, like whether soft or harsh, like he does that really well, and he uses influences in the best way. He is like a Tarantino of Europe, but his influences are like European and some Asian cinema, and he adapts it for American audiences in his own weird little story and narratives, especially now that he lives in France.
Also, I mean, you can't just say that he is basically regurgitating what they're doing. He's completely unique in how he presents it.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's like he takes it in. It's like a machine. He takes it in, and it gets translated into an Anderson film.
It's the lens of Wes Anderson that it goes through, and then like, you're like, okay, that's how he would have done it.
Like if Wes Anderson made Seven Samurai, that would be Isle of Dogs. In his own weird way. Yeah. And that's cool. Like, that's really nice. What's it called? Okay, and then so I mean, we could go on and on about this.
Music, though. We need to talk about his music choice, because it's
a lot of, like, sometimes it's classical, or sometimes it's like, what's it called?
That's not really the thing. It doesn't matter what type of music it is that he uses. He always seems to be able to choose music for scenes and choose when to start and stop the music in the scenes, so that it actually adds to the scene instead of just being kind of part of the scene. Yeah. It becomes very prominent, but it's useful in its prominence. Whereas some movies, you're like, okay, time for, you know, hit of 2019 right here, put it in the movie.
And it's not lazy. It's like very different, even though it's not the obvious sad string songs or obvious happy staccato songs. Like a lot of films, like his filmmaking. It's like, you know, like like Grand Budapest. It's like staccato like music to reflect the type of filmmaking he does. Or even once again, the French Dispatch is like the wah wah wah, like, you know, that sequence with the bike when they're holding that where Timothée Chalamet is holding on to his French girlfriend. His French girlfriend and stuff, and then the soft music that comes. Like I said, it's and you can tell it's not and he usually avoids popular music unless it's like especially if it's a modern popular music. If he does, it's usually like a very specific artist that he admires, like David Bowie for Steve Zissou. It presented in an interesting way where like you have the African American singer songwriter. He's singing Space Odyssey in Portuguese.
Yeah. So the ones I want to mention real quick are like the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes.
So they start off the film with "Hey Jude."
Yeah.
And the tone of it kind of feels like it's like,
but it's a cover,
a graduation tune, a little bit, where they're talking about how smart the kids are and stuff, and they're literally aging up the children as they're describing their use right before your eyes to the background of Hey Jude, and it brings them and it makes them feel like they're physically getting older as they're describing the origins. And then there's that like the dun 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 dun, or I don't know, that's not the song. Don't copyright me. That's a different song right there. But whenever there's like action going on, it's just the drum beat that they got going on that works really well to emphasize, okay, now things are kicking into action.
Right. He uses like different instruments, better than other filmmakers to illustrate that this is a certain type of scene, and that instrument like mentally you associate that. Okay, so now this is a tense scene. Now this is not like a tense scene. Yeah.
But it makes it fun also.
Yeah.
You know, it's not telling you what to think. It's like, okay, I'm ready for this now. Yeah. And then also in Moonrise Kingdom, the exercise tape.
Yes.
I think that was profoundly used throughout the film, and it worked very well because it kind of paced the movement and showing off what was going on when they were showing off the house. There's a lot more examples, but those are two of the most prominent ones that I wanted to mention.
I think that's good. Yeah. And, you know, and I think he does this all in his peak in his new film that he comes out, which is The French Dispatch. So French Dispatch is his newest film, and the alternate title is actually called The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. Yeah, which is a cool title also. And it's his first anthology film. Yes. Yeah, and then I guess that's how he characterized the film and stuff like that. And it's an anthology film formatted as Miles will describe
as a 3-course meal.
Yes, and I think it's a perfect apt way to do it.
It's very interesting. Can I get into what I mean when I say it's a 3-course meal?
Go on.
So you have the opening part of it, which is the obituary, and the obituary is basically describing, you know, the events that led up to the French Dispatch becoming publication and what has happened to the editor-in-chief who has now passed away. And that functions as the invitation to dinner in my mind. And then the next part that you have is Owen Wilson's section, where he is a bike riding reporter, and he is reporting on this area, describing the life in this region of France, and the people and the places and the things there, and that functions as your appetizer. And this is introduced to us through a waiter talking to Bill Murray's character, who plays the editor-in-chief, and the waiter says, "Let's start with this piece right here." So that introduces it as the starter, which is the appetizer. And then you have 3 central course stories, and those 3 central course stories function as the different choices for your entree. And then that finally finishes up with a dessert at the end, which is everybody coming together
with little desserts
and finding out, oh, yep, the editor-in-chief has died, and that is the story of them actually writing the obituary. And there's a literal dessert there, which is a cake for the editor's birthday.
Yes.
Who happened to have his birthday the day that he died as well.
Yeah. And played by Bill Murray. Fantastic.
Played by Bill Murray. And the waiter is there throughout the film. And you see that as being kind of that projection. So that's kind of my interpretation. It's a little bit clunky. I need to watch it again before I can formalize this. I didn't really kind of sort this out until after I had watched
we just
the film.
watched this yesterday. And it's a lot. And we watched it right after we got off work, super tired. And then like what's it called? And Miles knows this, like I was struggling to stay awake, not because the film was boring, but I was like, I get candy. I was like walking up, and it's a lot. It like your eyes are just tired from the level of visual confunkery that's happening on screen.
Yeah, it's shot in like what 3 different aspect ratios and a mixture of color and black and white, and all of it's done very effectively.
And God knows so many characters.
Yeah, and it's so experimental, but it's done incredibly effectively.
Right.
And for the number of characters there was not a time when I said, "Who's that?" You know, you understand who the characters are because they're all introduced very well, and you understand their roles, their motivations, without it even being said most of the time.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that Wes Anderson's able to capture incredibly well is, like you said, the economy of character development.
Yes.
And he is incredibly economic in the character development in this sense. So I know earlier you said that you were going to tell us who actually did this film, or who
yes, who released the film.
Yeah, who released the film.
So drum roll, please. Miles, give us a little bit of a drum roll. The actual, I think this all ties back to our original thing. The people who released the film is Disney.
Really?
Searchlight Pictures. Because
Disney owns Searchlight now?
Disney owns Searchlight Pictures, yeah. So they're actually the ones who distributed this film.
Okay.
Yeah, so it all ties back into the thing of the death of modern American cinema and art house cinema, and it's all done by the evil mouse. But yet somehow they're also the ones helping.
I never said that Disney was purely evil.
Disney, but yeah,
I just the big franchises, the big money makers, the ones that they milk for every penny that they can. Those are evil.
Yeah. Actually, ironically, it's like because of the money they make from the Marvel films,
they can do stuff like this. I know.
Where they don't it doesn't matter if they take a hit on this one because it's so small, right?
But is this a roster filler? Or is this, I
think this is more for
is this just a player so that they can have something sitting on the bench in the cinemas each week, or is this a movie that they actually care about making? Care about selling.
I think it's both. Because you always have to think on the business side, right? And they do care about it on an artistic sense, but also it's 3 things. It sits on the bench for like whatever spot they need. They always need to have some movie in theaters to generate income for their company, right?
Yes, and to keep their spot in line at the theaters,
exactly,
so that they don't get all their theater spaces taken away.
Exactly, and I think number 3 is the most important, is that they want to keep talent happy, right? Talents aren't always happy just doing blockbuster films, because a lot of them are just artists at heart, but they do blockbuster films for a paycheck, to get the money to pay their bills, to to be financially well off. But
you see this with Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. Like, I've mentioned Deadpool a couple times this episode.
Yeah,
fantastic franchise right there. But Ryan Reynolds, he literally will make a deal with the devil to be able to make another film. And I think that that's fine. He is able to bargain his way into being able to make these films that he loves and he's really wanted to do through doing other work.
His net worth right now is 600 million plus.
Really?
Because he, Aviation Gin, he made an alcohol gin.
Really?
And he sold it for 600 million plus. And he owns Mint Mobile.
Yeah, I knew that he owned Mint Mobile.
So like that and this, and apparently he's an investor. Dude, Ashton Kutcher? That guy is like I'm not saying he's a bad actor, right? But I guess the money that he's made from like, dude, where's my car or whatever, or 2.5 Men, he used that, and he's become one of the most prominent tech investors out there. He has like $250 million like cash or net worth, and then 300 million plus net worth. Didn't
he play a tech investor on 2.5 Men?
Yeah. It's ironic, right? He's playing himself.
That's probably where he learned the business.
And on Shark Tank, he was like a Shark Tank.
Really?
He was a shark on Shark Tank. Yeah, because he made all the he was the one invested in Uber, Tesla, and all that stuff before it got big, or Square, right? And and now he's like super big. So it's like, and this all ties back to actors, but that has to feed into their artistic soul and stuff like that. And I think like Disney released this film because also like look at how many A-list actors there are in this one, that they do want to keep them happy and they do want to create a positive working relationship with them, so that when they ask them to be on these big franchise roles. Oh, roles, rough. Oh,
jeez.
Oh my god, my voice broke. These big franchise roles that they want them to it's kind of like I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think that's also part of this, and maybe Wes Anderson, they might convince him to make like a weird Disney remake film.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And this is
I wouldn't mind that if he did a weird Disney remake film, right?
Yeah,
Wes Anderson, do Treasure Planet, please.
Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be perfect. Wes Anderson with $100 million budget.
Yeah.
Oh. All the giant sets he will build. Oh, that would be fucking great. All right, so
but and then on top of that, it also shows how much different, very big actors love working with Wes Anderson. Because what was the budget on this film?
This film, the budget, reported budget is $25 million, which is insane.
It's nothing. That's a
nothing.
drop in the bucket right there.
That's like 10 minutes of Eternals.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how many A-list actors did he have in this movie? Like 9, 10.
Oh, more than that. Let's just go with let's just read off the list. Yeah. So the French Dispatch Office composes Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Elizabeth Moss from Handmaid's Tale, Jason Schwartzman, Angelica Houston. She's a narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Angelica Houston is a narrator, and then you have Tilda Swinton, Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, mm-hmm. Léa Seydoux, Harry Winkler. Oh yeah, Harry Winkler.
He was like in 3 scenes, or
he was in the artist scene, the Concrete Masterpiece.
Yeah. He played. Yeah, he was like in 2 or 3 scenes.
Yeah. And then Bob Balaban.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called? Larry Pine. Yeah, Frances McDormand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Timothée Chalamet. Christoph Waltz.
Yeah,
was in the film for like a scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
Christoph Waltz. Jeffrey Wright.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Watcher himself? Utatu. What's a Stephen Park who plays the chef.
Mm-hmm.
You have Liev Schreiber as a talk show host. Edward Norton as a chauffeur. Willem Dafoe as Albert the Abacus. Saoirse Ronan as a showgirl. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And
then what was the Scooter girl's name? I always forget her name.
Oh, I didn't mention her because she's not big.
Yeah, but she will be.
But she will be Lina Kudry.
Yeah, Lena Kudry.
Yeah.
She's going to be big. She's gonna blow up. She's gonna blow up. Her career path is just nothing but an upward trajectory right now. She did a fantastic job.
Yeah, this guy was in it too. Rupert Friend.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was. Remember when they were doing one of Timothée Chalamet's characters, my baddest names are Frelly.
Mm-hmm.
Like was saying, my friend had to go to the army, but he doesn't want to be in the army anymore.
Oh yes,
yeah, he was there. He was the interpretation. They got everybody.
What did you think of that scene, by the way? Just because we're talking about his buddy scene. I love very interesting.
Yeah, if anything, it reminded me of Rushmore.
Yeah,
it was like a clear homage, like a callback to his film Rushmore and his love for plays. And I thought it was a really cool interpretation of what's it called? A somewhat tragic and traumatic scene for a lot of these people that go off to the war, and it presented in a play fashion makes it like almost as if we're the observer and interpreter of the events.
Well, I saw that more so as because it was a secondhand story. Yeah. So we're calling the cinematic film
and a lot of plays are movie, like adaptations.
The first-hand story.
Yeah.
Because that's where the reporters are coming in and they're seeing all this stuff.
Right.
And then they replay the kind of secondary story, the stuff that the reporters didn't see but they heard about in very different fashions throughout the film. So, that's the thing where that reporter...
That play does. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Had the play that kind of cut in where, it was a stage play showing basically another one of his buddies in the army committing suicide because he didn't like what it stood for.
Yes.
And it made him realize, and
he burns his patch.
Just because I have to do this doesn't mean I have to do this.
Exactly. I think, and that's one of the key sequences of the film, and that and we'll get into our favorite segment in a bit.
Yeah.
But that just let's just say made that early contender for one of my favorite segments.
There's a couple other ones that really stood
hard.
out, but I mean, there
all
was
three
just
are like fantastic.
Yeah, there was so much that stood out in this film that it was just utterly amazing.
Right.
So, do you want to explain the plot of the French Dispatch real quick?
I'll get into the background of the film, and then we'll get into the plot.
Background, sorry.
So, brief logline as described by Wes Anderson and other critics themselves is described to audiences as a love letter to journalists set at an outpost of an American newspaper in a fictional 20th century French city, centering on 4 stories, 1 appetizer with a cycling journalist, and 3 main meat stories, the 3-course meal. Mm-hmm. Right. The stories are the cycling reporter, which is like basically the appetizer to get your feet wet and your balls tingled. The concrete masterpiece, the main one, and other revisions to a manifesto about Concrete Masterpiece is about Moses Rosenthal, who's a mentally disturbed artist living a sentence in Ennui prison, and this all takes place in Ennui, France, for murder. But at the same time, he's attracting the attention of a lot of people with his abstract paintings, right? And then revisions to a manifesto, it's about a student protest breaking out in the streets of Ennui, and the main guy is Zeffirelli, and he's revising his manifesto for all to read.
Yeah, and, I think the revisions to the manifesto more so refer to the reporter,
right, the reporter
revising the manifesto for him.
The reporter is Lucinda Crements, played by Frances McDormand. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. She's killing it, and she's gonna be in Tragedy of Macbeth later on, which I'm so excited for. We will cover that in January when it comes on Apple TV Plus, or hopefully we can watch it in theaters. Mm-hmm. And the last one is the private dining room of the police commissioner. Where it's about Roebuck Wright, played by Jeffrey Wright, actually. Yep. Who is recounting the story of attending a private dinner with the commissaire of the Ennui police force, where the commissaire's son is kidnapped. And there's a whole storyline revolving around that. Yep.
And just like every single child in every Wes Anderson film ever, as they get younger, they get smarter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like Benjamin Button.
Exactly. The kids are smarter beyond their years. And as for how this even came apart, apparently this part of these stories in anthology was inspired is that he actually came up with these stories with Roman Coppola, Hugo Ginnis, and Jason Schwartzman. But he wrote the script himself, but he compiled the stories with them, and it all kind of came about because it's about his love of the New Yorker, which is basically a American weekly magazine featuring journalism, commentary, criticism, essays, fiction, satires, cartoons, the whole bunch. And on top of that, a lot of these stories are real life equivalents from the magazine, because like the magazine one time covers 3 stories on like the May 68 student occupation protests, and there's an article there that talks about called "The Events in May: A Paris Notebook," and that he adapts that into the Zeffirelli storyline. Yes. And it's a lot. It's really cool. I really like it. He himself says. It's a quote from Wes Anderson himself. He says, "The story is not easy to explain. It's about an American journalist based in France who creates his magazine. It is more of a portrait of this man, of this journalist who fights to write what he wants to write. Mm-hmm. It is not a movie about freedom of press, but when you talk about reporters, you also talk about what's going on in the real world." And I think when he's talking about, Wes Anderson's talking about a journalist who fights to write what he wants to write, I think that's this probably was one of his most personal projects. That's essentially what he struggled with when going to Hollywood, about trying to make the films that he wants to make in his particular style. Yeah. So I can see why this film resonated with him, because in a weird way, like even the journalist people, some criticize it's just like it's commentary art, but it's still art regardless, right? Yeah. And there's like they still have to deal with their own type of creative expression, and in a way that this is still about story about different artists. One is literally an artist. Is trying to fight for freedom of expression.
Well, I would say that a chef is an artist and a writer is an artist, and a bum pissing in a urinal in the street is an artist.
Yes. And it's in a weird way, this film is like a celebration of art and us fighting to say what we want and what we say. Not to say freedom of press, but more about freedom of creative expression. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think that's...
creative expression. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And I think that's why for Wes Anderson, this was like almost a perfect vehicle for him to do it. Mm-hmm. And also, he's a Euro cinema. He's a Francophile. Yeah. He loves French culture. So
did you ever see the Prada commercial that he did?
Yes,
it's like a 15-minute short film.
Yeah.
For all of you out out there, you should go watch it.
That probably paid for his house in France.
But you should watch that before you watch this film. But yeah, go watch the product commercial. It's one of the things that I feel was an inspiration for this, style wise, like, because even though there is the Wes Anderson style, each of his films really do have very unique elements, and they do stand out from one another. And I feel like that one's the closest kind of style wise to this actual film.
Yeah. And I agree with that too. It's like, guys, the film is just like, it's like, you know what, Miles, you want to say it is a surrealist?
It is a very surrealist film. When I saw the trailer for this film, do you remember what I said to you about it?
No, say it again. Rejog my memory.
Yeah. So when I saw this trailer, I was like, wow, this is like Wes Anderson taking Wes Anderson to like 120 right here. You know, like it was literally, it felt almost like a parody of Wes Anderson if anybody else had been doing it.
Oh yeah,
you know,
I agree with that.
It like the level of Wes Andersonisms in
how things enter into the frame, the side. Dude, even the first shot. Remember when the what's it called? The guy who was coming into the French Dispatch and he was preparing the meals. It's just this one long take of him putting in different drinks, different items, putting in the items, taking it out, and stuff like that, and then going through. Dude, that shot. I was like immediately like my jizzing in my pants. Like, oh my gosh, it was
great. Yeah,
I was just like, wow, you're really pulling all the stops for this fucking film.
And I don't think there was a single shot in the film that was what you might consider a normal shot.
No, there's so much shit that's going on.
Every single shot that was in this film, which something that usually you don't want to do. You want to have some kind of like normal shots to keep people kind of grounded and in reality.
But it doesn't care.
But
it's a surrealist film.
He just took it all the way and was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do here. And every single shot felt like it had a built set, you know, a Wes Anderson set.
Yeah.
You know, there weren't really normal rooms. There wasn't anything normal going on in this film. And it was beautiful because of that. And everything worked well together.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it would have worked better if he had done it with some normal shots in it. I think that this was the only way that this movie really works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that. It's like, it's what's it called? It's so beautiful, so intricate, and it's like even like you were talking about like he chooses a unique way to depict conversations. Like when we get into the concrete masterpiece segment,
yes,
it was like Benicio del Toro character and Leia Sedu's character, where the way they talk is like it's one frame, but one's laying. Like they're laying opposite of each other, and their heads are right next to each other, and looking up, not at each other, not making eye contact while speaking.
And then that also portrays conversational power, and they're actually lying on a sheet that has text on it going across. So you see the text flipping upside down, right side up, upside down throughout their conversation. And it works brilliantly to create an aesthetic scene that you're really invested in, and you're listening to what's going on, but you're also feeling what's going on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think once again, besides it being a unique way to do it, it's just like it just establishes the tone of the film instantly with like those type of shots and conversations. All right, let's get into like kind of like beat by beat. I'm skipping the cycling reporter because it's just like it does. I'll also say this: it does a great job of getting your feet wet about the Neuilly, France, and the settings and stuff like that. And you know, we love seeing Owen Wilson in a Wes Anderson film. I think it feels weird if he's not there in some capacity.
Yeah. I do want to say about Bill Murray's conversation with Owen Wilson after the cycling reporter, where he asked him, hey, didn't you want to portray some of the beauty of this place?
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah. And then he was like, to me, this is beautiful, talking about the dirt, the grime, the bums, you know, basically all the little things that make the city special aren't necessarily, you know, that big, beautiful fountain over there or that statue or this beautiful building.
Yeah.
It's the strange people, the eccentric people, the people who make the city unique.
Right.
And you know, there was that conflict there. I mean, it wasn't really a conflict, but I think that was a great way to open up the film, is with Owen Wilson basically saying, no, we don't want to portray beauty as beauty. We want to portray the harsh reality of it.
Right. And that's what he does with like all the different aspects of it. It's a mix of beauty and grime, but sometimes the grime is the beauty that comes with it.
Exactly. And that's why I think that section is very important in the film.
And that's why what's it called. I read one review. I forgot it was The Guardian or something. I don't think it's The Guardian, but I'm sorry if The Guardian person actually listens to this and I say this. But they were all saying this is his ugliest film, right? And it's like it just destroys the beauty of France. I'm like, you guys completely misunderstood the message of the film. It's literally in the Cycling Reporter story where it talks about that is part of the beauty and the charm of the city, right? Accepting its flaws, and sometimes the flaws is what accentuates what we love about a place, right? But yeah, that is a cool place. All right, so the concrete masterpiece, which I love this segment so much.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, like Benicio del Toro, he was just fantastic as Moses Rosenthaler, and then like it's framed as also like a story within a story, where Tilda Swinton, who's one of the reporters at the French Dispatch, talks about her reporting of Moses's life, and it's presented in black and white. And also you got Tony Ravioli playing a Revolori.
Well, it's not entirely black and white though. It's presented
it was
some in color.
Some color.
Yeah. They usually used color very briefly
to accentuate a point or something.
And also when they were showing off the art that he was making, they would use a flash of color. So it would be, like 5 to 10 seconds of a color shot showing the art that he's actually created, and then it would go back to black and white again. And I think that actually accentuated the beauty while it was showing the art in black and white.
Yeah.
For some reason, because it's then your imagination, and it brings in that surreal feeling to it, because it's like, that the colors are there, but you can't see them, and that's the surrealist, the background being a character. The art pieces throughout the entire segment were characters. Sorry, did you want to continue on about your thing? Sorry, I keep on interrupting.
Continue. Yeah, I'm just double checking on the plot details for the thing. Yeah. And it is. It's just like, what's it called? Actually, no, you go on first before I try to call it.
And then another thing that I found really beautiful about this sequence was just one kind of one-off shot. Because they're talking about, they go back to talk about his origin, how he got arrested, how he was an artist beforehand. And they show him, basically, he sits down in his prison, and they're like, and he didn't paint for 10 years. And you see the young him get up off of the seat that he's sitting on, take off his name tag, his dog tag, basically, and then puts it on Benicio del Toro, who plays the older version. And that's to show that time has passed. And they do
it in such a unique way. It's such a unique way of doing that.
I've never seen anything like that before. And I think that
it blew my mind, actually, when I saw that.
So I wasn't alone when I thought that was like one of the most like.
No, it was so cool and so unique to see that. At first I was like, wait, does this mean it was like, it's
like
not
stolen
really him?
Identity?
Yeah,
and then
no,
I was
it
like,
wasn't.
Like I realized what happened, and I was like, holy shit, that's so good.
Yeah, it's just showed that like it's still the same person, but just they look different or something like that.
But I mean,
it's such a unique way to show time passing,
especially
so cool.
with like a lot of the other ways that he's able to show time passing.
Yeah,
it just. He always has something unique up his sleeve, something special for us.
He's always pushing the envelope when it comes to different storytelling techniques that I appreciate and I love in it. And it shows that he's not being lazy. He's not being stale. He's always trying to make it exciting for the audience to learn. Whether they appreciate it or not, he's like, I don't care if you're not on my wavelength. I don't care if you appreciate this. I'm still going to do this. And for the ones that do, it's such a nice rewarding tree to get this. So fuck you people who are like, it's boring. But shut the fuck up. But it's... But no, I agree. And also when you mentioned the flashes of colors that do it to accentuate the beauty of the painting, and I think that's cool. Like once again, like the dirt and the grime is black and white, but that black and white accentuates the beauty of the colors that do pop up when it does. It makes it so much more important.
But then the colors also accentuate the beauty of the black and white.
Exactly.
And it's this
weird
thing.
Back and forth symbiotic relationship between colors.
Even when you aren't seeing the colors in the scene, you feel that they're there. You can sense them around you, and it's great. It's hard to describe the way that these.
I agree. I agree with that completely. It's just like, and it's just like it's such a cool thing. And Léa Seydoux, oh my gosh, so dreamy, so amazing, so fantastic.
Just the way that she was acting the whole time throughout this entire sequence, where she was this stone-faced, very kind of sad-looking person, but with glimpses of happiness.
Yeah, and all with her eyes.
Yeah, and you could tell that she did love Moses.
Yeah,
but she didn't love him the way that he loved her.
Yes,
and she was the perfect muse for him throughout the entire thing. All of his paintings, his brilliant paintings that he became known for, were of her. and it's one of those things where she was the police guard, and after he basically says, yeah, if I don't find a different outlet for my life other than drinking, a quart of mouthwash every day, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to die. And she helps him through that by helping to encourage him to pick back up his art.
Yes.
And you see that relationship developing between them.
And was it's just an interesting, unique relationship that I liked, and both Stan and Benicio del Toro lays to do. Even Adrian Brody was like, he was great as the art dealer. He was like fantastic. I love Adrian Brody.
I think that worked really well, where he was able to play a guy that was just scummy enough to be the type of person that would be that type of art dealer.
It's also commentary on like it's almost like commentary on like art dealers, art hipsters, and how they view art, where it's less about the actual quality of the art, whether they actually like it, but it's like how it's perceived by society and how they use that and bend that and manipulate people's interest in it to make it popular. But at the end, his character has depth. I do like the line, because he actually does love the paintings at the end.
I do like the line that he says where he's like, do you see the lady in there? And then because she's in there, talking to his old school art.
Oh, you mean Harry Winkler and Bob Balaban? Yeah.
When he's talking to them, he's like telling them, we need to get this guy. He needs to be on our radar. This is going to be like the next big thing right here. And they're like, modern art, scoffing at it. And, he shows them a painting that's just a very abstract painting. You can't really tell what it is. And he's like, there's a lady in there. It's like he can actually see kind of what the message in the image is, which I think is great for that character to have. And then also for us watching the film, it seemed like a lot of the lines in the film and a lot of the dialogue in the film was speaking directly to cinema viewers.
Right.
Yeah.
And then
kind of encoded.
And also, I think it's almost like his direct attack against film executives.
Yeah.
Remember at the end where he's like, it's on the wall? How are we going to take this out? I hate you. And they have a fight about it. But in the end, he appreciates the art, and like he arranges it for like an art museum. And then like I can imagine like them loving and pampering Wes Anderson, and then immediately maybe it's like Bottle Rocket. They're like, oh, it's so good, so amazing. And Bottle Rocket comes out, fails, and they're like, this fucking sucks. Fuck you. You're never working in town. And then and in the end, once it's appreciated and loved, they change their mind and opinion. I think there's a lot of meta commentary in here about his own personal career that like he's just kind of hiding in. Okay, this is all I have for Conquer Mastery. Do you want to add anything before we go to Revisions to Manifesto?
No. I think that so should we talk about the commentary that Bill Murray gives afterwards? Because I felt like that commentary was fairly important. What did he say again?
See, this is why I wish we had this on Blu-ray so we could pause.
Because I would have paused this and I would have written all this stuff down.
And also when we fucking watch it, fuck you AMC for not projecting it right, because like they over projected and overextended it. So some of like texts were was straight up cut out from our viewing, which is so fucking annoying. Especially in this film when there's so much text to read. Wes
Anderson films, I love watching them in theaters, but sometimes
like once.
Sometimes you want to have it at home where you can pause it and read a freaking 30-page block of text.
Yeah, I think Wes Anderson just could read things in like lightning speed. Oh, you can't read this in like 300 pages in a second? Idiots. Yep. You fucking dumb fucks. You pieces of shit, you smooth-brained little limp dick motherfuckers. That's probably how he thinks of us. But we still love you. It's an abusive relationship we have. He could abuse us all we want, but we'll still go back.
Yeah. I don't really remember what he says about this one, but do you remember?
I remember oh gosh.
Because I remember some of them. But
I know he talked about like well actually it was before the thing where he talks about like the story's too long and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then at the point like he's and like I think he's like the ideal creative executive where he says, okay, just cut the ads, do the paper, we'll take the hit. And I think and there's something similar afterwards that he says after it's like, oh, I wish I remember.
Well, that's the thing about Bill Murray throughout this whole thing, where he basically has comments for his writers as an editor, and if the writers fight back on it, he's like, okay, fine, well, we're gonna compromise. You just do a little bit of what I asked. That's like the only things that I'm demanding, but you can keep the rest if you really feel like it's important. So he gives them that creative freedom and only really tells them to fix something if he knows that it's a big problem.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the type of person that Wes Anderson wants to work with, that he's portraying there.
Oh yeah, Wes Anderson. The Wes Anderson and Bill Murray. Like I'm gonna be so sad. Like knock knock, just on Bill Murray. Like the day Bill Murray is no longer able to be in Wes Anderson films, it's gonna be such heartbreaking. I can't imagine a Wes Anderson film without Bill Murray, like in some capacity. You know what I mean?
What about Rushmore? Or not Rushmore, Bottle Rocket.
That's what I'm saying. It's not my favorite Wes Anderson film. What's it called?
Are you saying that Bill Murray is the secret recipe to Wes
exactly? He's like
Anderson's
secret
success?
lucky charm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like Christopher Nolan using Michael Keaton or something like that. Or what's it called? Chloe Zhao using this guy named Clay something. It's you need that lucky charm. You know what I mean? Just a little bit.
I thought it was Owen Wilson who was his lucky charm.
Yeah, but Owen Wilson's not in everything though, right? Yeah.
What wasn't he in?
I think he wasn't.
I don't think he wasn't in Moonrise Kingdom, was he?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And was he in Grand Budapest? I don't remember in Grand Budapest.
I'm not sure. That's information to look up later.
Yeah.
Also, Jason Schwartzman's been in like everything.
Almost everything. Yeah.
He's got a lot of recurring.
Oh, but he wasn't in Royal
Tenenbaums.
Tenenbaums.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, but they show mostly in this stuff. What's it called? Yeah, it's
okay. We just got totally derailed on this.
Let's go. Revisions to Manifesto, which is about Lucinda Crements, who is a French Dispatch reporter reporting on the student revolution led by Zeffirelli and his
Zeffirelli.
Zeffirelli. Oh, right, Zeffirelli and his girlfriend.
She's not really his girlfriend though.
Oh no, at the end.
Well, not at the beginning. Though.
Oh, not the beginning. Okay, fine. Or fellow revolutionary Juliet.
Yeah.
Who she's dynamite in the film. She's gonna blow up big, or at least in the French film world.
And Juliet has a completely different vision than Zeffirelli does of what the revolution means, and I think that that's important to look at. You know, when you're having these big kind of coming together, everybody standing up for something. Not everybody's standing up for the same thing, and it's important to understand what it is that you're working towards or what you want. Yeah,
it's like, and this one was like one of my favorites because it's just like I think I had definitely the prettiest imagery, particularly the scene with where Zeffirelli and Juliet go off to make love, and they're on the motorbike.
Yes,
and
then also I really like the scene where they're panning in from the outside of the coffee shop, and you see the coffee shop wall just kind of get pushed to the side so that they can come in and enter, and that's like a Wes Anderson shot right there.
Oh,
like,
yes,
101 Wes Anderson shot.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen a shot exactly like that before in a Wes Anderson film, but it felt to me like the Wes Anderson film shot.
Oh, I agree with that too.
Also his descriptions of the different groups and stuff. Different cliques. It just.
Oh, when he goes to like future present, future. Oh, well, that was more in the Cycling Reporter, but I agree with that too. And also, like, I love the chess sequence. The chess.
Which one?
Oh, wait, no, I mean what's it called, the one at the end.
Yeah,
right before they go.
Yeah.
Where and then what's it called, and that one's just like, it's because
it's a hostage negotiation. Where they're playing chess to see who wins. Yeah.
And I think this section is like, besides the article that he mentioned, it was also like, you can see a lot of Victor Hugo influences, like, Les Mis Rob, like, the student revolution. That final scene where like, what, like they put up the barricades and stuff.
Oh, definitely. Revolution. I mean, that's definitely what they were trying to go for with it. Yeah.
And it was fantastic. It's just like, and there's other French Revolution films out there. And this is not a French film, but like Battles, the documentary Battles of Algiers, like kind of that chaotic nature of it. It's like there too. It's cool. I fucking love this segment so much. So artistic, so cool. And also it has to do with kind of like journalism neutrality, right? And then they talk about how like that's impossible.
Yeah, and because the journalist gets played by Frances McDormand,
they have a point of view.
She gets involved. She knows Zeffirelli's family. And she gets involved with this kind of revolution. She follows it too closely.
And she gives them advice.
Helping to revise his manifesto and make it more competent.
Exactly.
And legible.
Yeah. And on top of that, like, and I think it's even yes, that was funny. It's like, even the lines is like, it's like, oh, I didn't want, it's like, I only wanted you to review because I just wanted to admire how awesome it is. Yeah. And then, even his, like, I like that character a lot too. He has just like such an iconic look. It's just an interesting look to his face, and also like
Did we mention what the revolution was about?
I was like, oh, go on.
Yeah, it was about accessing the women's dormitories for men.
Yeah,
because the men wanted to be allowed to go into the women's dormitories and see them there.
I know, it's fucking
Which I thought was that was great.
It's just such a weird one. It's so cool. I mean, I didn't. If I cut this short, it's not because I don't love it or just don't have a lot to say about it. It's just because like I think because we did talk parts of it like earlier when we talked about the flashback sequence with Rupert Friend and stuff, where we talked about like the play, and it's such a cool commentary on revolution, integrity, and neutrality, and basically neutrality doesn't exist in art because everyone has a point of view and perspective. That having neutrality is almost like anti-art, not anti-art, or it's like it's a antithesis to what art is, because art is fueled by perspectives, by beliefs and stuff, and values.
Well, and when Frances McDormand's character got introduced in the beginning of the movie,
Yeah,
she was introduced as this, no nonsense, hard hitting, basically master of vocabulary, like reporting just the straight facts, the straight news and stuff like that. So you see that even she gets involved with, with this revolution, and that she can't be completely impartial, even though she's seen as being the person who is the most impartial out of everybody.
Yeah,
within the journalist camp that they're part of.
Yeah,
yeah,
and then
that really works well to kind of juxtapose how she's viewed in society.
And I agree with that too. And even let's get to the Zeffirelli character, like his death. Like that's a clear homage to, and like how his head, his face is like plastered on like a memorabilia or like t-shirts, and after like he becomes a martyr, right? And it's clearly like a tip and nod to Che Guevara. How like his face is on like a bunch of different like expressions of freedom,
and a lot of different revolutionary things.
And then
where he's just seen as another person who is a symbol more than a person.
Exactly.
But the people don't even understand what he symbolized anymore.
And even like, and though it's not a one-to-one comparison, but like the idea of like an artist dies young, so his youth is immortalized. So kind of like Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, stuff like that. And it's a good commentary. Like there's so much different layers. That's why I wish I watched this again before we do. It's so hard because literally we watched it yesterday, and then it's just like and because of like fucking COVID and they're not giving enough show times for these films, it's just like hard to watch this another time. I will watch this again because I feel like there's just so much I could glean from a second watch and viewing stuff. Probably in like a Blu-ray.
Yeah. Also, I guess we should get into, this isn't something we talked about earlier, but character design.
Oh, yeah.
You don't really talk about character design too much in most modern films because most characters don't really have like an established look, but that's a big thing for most Wes Anderson characters.
Oh, yeah.
Where they've got like, each character has this very unique look, and the most unique out of all of them throughout this entire sequence has to be Lena Kudry's character. Scooter Girl.
Yes. Yeah, like she's always like in a scooter outfit
with the helmet on. Like even when she's inside, she's got her scooter helmet on. Always looking at her little powder. Face powdering mirror thing. Yeah. And
it's reflective of the character. Like they're very, we talked about self-perspective and self-expectations. That's like someone who's obsessed with that. On top of that, like she almost uses that as like a shield from the outside world.
Yeah.
Like
when people talk to her and she's nervous, or if she's like, got anxiety about a situation, then she puts up her mirror because then she can look back at herself and reflect on herself instead of looking out at society.
Exactly. I think it's so cool. It's such a good multi-layered story and character. Like I've begun to, as we're talking about, appreciate more and more about this film as we
I feel like every single time we've talked about a film tonight, you've just started to appreciate it more and more.
Oh yeah, especially with Wes Anderson stuff. Yeah. I mean, there's some films like, I think you weren't here on the Eternals podcast, where I was like, the more I talked about it, I'm like,
there's certain films that are worth discussing, and then there's certain films that are not worth discussing unless you're drunk off your ass at a bar at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Eternals.
I was gonna listen to our podcast episode on that. Yeah. All right. So I'm mostly done with that. I'm ready to move on to the final segment. Are you too?
Yeah, I think that we covered all of our bases there.
Yeah.
Bill Murray's character does ask Frances McDormand's character afterwards when he's reviewing her thing
Oh yeah.
to drop the part where she was involved in it.
Oh right.
And
Yeah.
to get rid of that, like, and she's like, no, I can't. That's part of the story.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's
Yeah,
part of being in there.
Integrity of the story is to keep that in there.
So
And I
she
did
felt
like
that the integrity was more important for her to write what was true
for
than her
credibility.
to
For the
say
reputation.
than for her to try to preserve her reputation as being unbiased and impartial.
Hence the journalists fighting to write what they want to write.
Yes.
And I think that's great. It's just such a huge love letter to journalism, or not even just journalism, art in general.
Yes. I would say more so to art than to journalism.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It made me want to read the New Yorker after, getting into this. What's it called? Miles is giving me that look like, nah, not for me.
I'm not that much of an intellectual.
All right, so the final one, titled "The Private Dining Room of the Police Commissioner," and this is by Jeffrey Wright's character Roebuck Wright, and it's an interview, and he's basically through flashbacks we find out his dinner with the commissioner of Inui and the kidnapping of his son and what entails of that.
Yeah,
and I don't know if this is my favorite segment, but it's very unique, and I think it has my favorite Bill Murray commentary scene.
Yeah, so this was another one that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Also, because it was also one of those ones that was a story that was told being retold.
Exactly.
Yeah, where he was being interviewed on a talk show, and he was retelling the story word for word because his thing was that he can remember every story he's ever written.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. And it's just like it has, and I was wondering, like, where's Willem Dafoe? Is he not going to be in this film? And he's in it.
Yeah.
Thank God. In this thing. And it's like, I think this one like is like his own version of Jean Renoir or like a spy, or some type of a French, it's from 60s French crime film.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a weird Wes Anderson unique take on it that I love. Like it's a good homage and love letter to those type of films.
Mm-hmm.
And one still through the perspective of the French Dispatch.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm just gonna go straight to it. Like the animation sequence, dude, I was laughing my balls off.
The animation sequence was great, but then also the first sequence where he's strolling through the police headquarters office and going through different rooms, and that was a very Wes Anderson type thing,
one of his best sets,
where because that's another thing, like you saw it in Grand Budapest Hotel, where it's like just people walking through what would be a normal location, and then behind them you see them kind of just moving through the scenery, and what they're doing isn't what really matters, even though they're the main focus of the scene. But it's what's going on around them in each different room that they go into. They go into, he walks through a gymnasium. He walks behind a firing range where you can't see him, but you see the targets getting hit. Yeah. And, he's walking in the hallway behind that. He goes into a room where it's basically a pitch dark room and there's a chicken coop. Yes. And it alludes to that he was in there for some reason. Yeah. Which I guess the chicken coop was just like their kind of holding cell. Yeah. Yeah. And then the lights come on and there's a bunch of police officers behind him. It's great. And then he finally makes it to this dining room that he's been searching for.
Yeah, and that's the one where he's gonna meet with the commissioner and then talking about the thing. And once again, the kid speaks beyond his ears, super smart. Yes. Yeah, and then I just loved everything with all the kids stuff and like how he's he's outsmart. He's the reason why he escapes. He outsmarts them all. Yeah. Where he talks about send the chef their Morse code. Mm-hmm. And that chef is MVP, by the way. Yes. That chef, like, even though he makes the poison fucking meal, and he still he eats it and he takes it in and he gives it to everybody just to save the kid. Yeah. He basically almost sacrifices his own life. Dude, that guy's beast. And
at the end, he's like, it's tasty.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, and I think that's the thing that a lot of artists feels that like it's basically like he's saying like it despite like the pain and suffering that he went through and almost dying from it, but it gave him a new flavor that he never gets usually, and that's kind of like I feel like with a lot of art, where especially for filmmaking is very hard. I was like an intern for a production set for like a week. It was like insane, like 13-14 hours a day, and just only for a week, and I was just like wiping people's asses and shit. And Ron could say this because he was actually been on more productions as like a grip and gaffer. But it's like it's a huge labor of love, and it's like very intensive. And recently, before IATSE, it had very terrible working conditions, and some people get in like car crashes on the way back home. But it's like, but at the end of the day, it's like the sacrifice you make, basically like putting your life on the line, giving every inch of your life and soul.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, even though you go through this hardship, you end up loving the art even more.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's what the chef said. I love that speech when he said that. It's so emblematic of how art is. You give your life and soul to it. Sometimes you hate it. You hate the process, but at the end result, or just like what you did from it, it made all of it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then should we also talk about the backstory of Roebuck Wright?
Yes. You want to, are you specifically
you should talk about his kind of backstory of who he is.
No, you can go into it. Yeah.
So basically, he was an American who wanted to write for the French Dispatch because he saw it and he was like, okay, this is something that I want to write for, and was told, okay, well, if you're ever in ennui, then come and try out for us.
Yeah.
And he gets out there, and one of the first few nights that he's out in Ennui, France, he gets arrested for basically being gay. And it's... they kind of hinted it a little bit. I don't know if they ever straight up say it.
Yeah.
And, that's how he gets put into the chicken coop. And then from there, Bill Murray's character comes in.
And he bails him out.
Doesn't care. This is, and I mean, we need to
preface
that this is not set in modern day. This is set in like, what year is it?
Let's go into, I think it's like it's pretty ambiguous, like 1960s or something like that. Yeah.
So Bill Murray's character comes in, basically bails him out of jail, is like, greases the hands of the police commissioner and stuff, and says, okay, well, gives him an interview while he's sitting in a prison cell. Yeah. And is like, okay, well, you got a job. Write a review on this book. Yeah. Yeah.
And I love how, but it's still true to his character where like he's still business savvy about it. Where he says like, I'll give you 600, but minus the 200
that I'm paying to get you out of here.
And then also I'm going to minus the 300 I'm going to give you back for living expenses. Yeah. Which I just love. But then at the same time, Jeffrey Wright's still appreciative and very grateful for the opportunity and stuff like that. Because, once again, Bill Murray is like, I think like a champion for writers and the arts and stuff like that.
They really portray his character throughout this as not caring about who you are, where you've been, or what you've done. He just cares about, are you a good writer? Are you somebody who's going to write honestly and something that people want to hear, or something that should be heard?
Right? Yes, the honesty writer, or just like going back into it. And I did love like, here's a book, and try to write a review as if you read it. But then,
or no, he said,
or try to review.
No, he said, try to make it sound like you meant to write it that way.
Oh, you meant to write it? Okay, yeah, I remember it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Where it's basically saying, if you do write it poorly, or you do say something stupid, at least try to make it seem like you meant to do it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
And also, I think it has my favorite Bill. Because, I mentioned the, what's it called? The recovering, the chef. Mm-hmm. What's it called? Remember Jeffrey Wright actually took it out because it was too sad. But Bill Murray says, no, that's the best part. Reinsert it back in. Mm-hmm. And that was I think that was one of my favorite Bill Murray moments, where I think like that just shows his character instantly, where he says he doesn't care about how depressing or how, basically how the general public might see it. But he says that what's best for the integrity and for the general impact of the story. And he said, put it back in regardless. And I love that part. And also, I think that's like emblematic of Wes Anderson's mindset when it comes to filmmaking. It's like, look, I know this might bore people. This might be might be very palatable to the mainstream audiences, especially this film. But he says, but I'm still going to present it this way, because I feel like this is the best way to present the story that I want to present.
So why do you think that Roebuck Wright said that I don't agree? After Bill Murray said that, because he said that he disagrees with Bill Murray's kind of synopsis of not putting that in.
What's that? Did he say that he disagreed?
Or yes, he said that he disagrees.
He disagreed that put it back in, right?
He's like, okay, I'll put it back in, but I don't agree.
What's it called?
He agrees to put it back in, but he doesn't agree that it should. He doesn't think that Bill Murray's right about it being the best part.
Yeah, because I think
He still thinks that it's a sad part and not a good part, because one of the things that's highlighted in there is that not just that this deadly poison tastes, is the new flavor, but also in that section that the chef feels like a foreigner. Well, he is a foreigner, and he feels like an outcast, and that reflects, Roebuck writes, also feeling like he is an outcast in this society.
Yeah.
Where
American
he's trying to fit in.
France.
So he finds his sadness in that, not just in the fact that he committed suicide. At least that was my interpretation of it.
Yeah. What's it called? Oh no, he doesn't commit suicide.
He's
still alive.
Or not commit suicide. Or took poison. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What's it called? Yeah,
So,
no, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's it called, it is probably just hurtful for him to read that and because it doesn't really tie into the other the other the more exciting parts of the story as seamlessly. But then I think for Bill Murray, he's like, but just the value of what he said is so important that it can't be left out. But
also, I think that shows the disparity between the experiences of Bill Murray's character and Roebuck Wright. Yeah. So I think that's a very
POV perspective, and goes back to
conversation right there to look at.
It goes back to Francis McDormand. There's no neutrality. Yeah. Everybody has perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This film is great. This film is fantastic. Okay, and then we already taled about the ending and how it goes.
We should talk about. I remembered this. So if you go back to the murals, the airplane. So we were talking about the submarine in Life Aquatic.
Oh yeah.
And that's kind of redone with the airplane scene where they're walking through the airplane.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, which I thought was very interesting and well done as well.
It is. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
This film.
Yeah.
This film. You know what? I think my rating has just went up. You know what? Okay. I'm pretty much done with my commentary on this one. Do you want to get into final ratings for all the stuff and kind of?
Yeah. So yeah, let's break it down. Break it down.
Okay. Let's start off with Bottle Rocket.
Bottle Rocket.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? Actually, no. Even before then, because that'll just spoil our thing. Let's start off. What is your least favorite?
My least favorite
Wes Anderson film. Yes.
Is the film that we did not mention today.
The Darjeeling Limited.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that's like a specific homage or homage to I think the guy who directed Panther Pachali, like Indian filmmaker and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that's the one that I watched the least, and I haven't watched that since I came out.
Mm-hmm.
And I might change my mind. I'll watch it tomorrow. But I think for me right now, it's in my memory, it's like the lowest.
Yeah, I've watched it once, and then I tried to watch it again. Couldn't get through it. Unfortunately, that's the only film in his entire catalog that I don't like.
Yeah. And I think if I watch it again, it might improve. But for now, it's my least favorite. Mm-hmm. Now, what is your favorite?
My favorite is Moonrise Kingdom.
That's a good one. Honestly, yes. I'm so close to saying that, but I haven't seen it again since it came out. So that it's hard for me to say if it's my favorite.
Yeah.
But for now, okay, I have two. This is cheating, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite live action film from him, and this is a very biased. It doesn't reflect the rating and stuff. Very biased. It's Life Aquatic of Steve Zissou.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just so fun, so riotous. I guess I love.
I can understand that. It's a good movie.
And it's just it's so good. I mean, I was about to mention the other ones were Grand Budapest or Moonrise because I think like that's where his technical peak, but it's just like. The mix of the storyline, Bill Murray's his character, and also like that final sequence when they finally see the jaguar shark, so powerful and so emotional when they're finally in the submarine.
Yeah,
seeing that, and also just like the ridiculous Filipino pirates and stuff. It's so fun. Yes. It's so weird. It's a little bit out there for a Wes Anderson film.
That's how can a Wes Anderson film be a little out there?
I know, that's true. And then the production design is just fantastic, and it's just weird and quirky. And it's about filmmaking and stuff like that. And, that jingles my balls. What's it called? But yeah, it's Life Aquatic. Okay, so let's go chronologically from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Start off with Bottle Rocket. What is your rating?
Bottle Rocket?
Yeah.
My rating is that one goes on the shelf.
Yeah. Well, I'm debating on that one. You know why? Because like I appreciate it for being so raw for his first film, and I appreciate it and stuff like that. And I laughed. We laughed a lot.
Yes,
we laughed a lot in that film. It's so fucking good.
It hit me better So I've seen it before. I didn't really appreciate it as much the first time that I saw it, and then we watched it again today, and it definitely. So I would have put it in streaming before.
Yeah.
Which that's really low for a Wes Anderson film for me.
Yeah.
I would have put it in streaming before, but after watching it again today, it did move up to the shelf for me.
Yeah. You know, it's ironic because I actually own this film and it's also technically on my shelf.
Yeah.
But that's not my rating, sadly. Because I think it's just because like I said, it is his first one. He hasn't quite hit his strides yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he wasn't able to quite do everything that he wanted. I could feel that way, but still great. I love it. It's so close on the shelf as streaming premium though.
Yeah,
the highest premiums. Like I want to pay like $40 a month for the streaming service for this, but yeah, it's on that for me.
I'll pay $12.99 plus ads.
Wait, what about
just to watch one film?
The next one, Rushmore.
Rushmore. That one goes in the museum.
Same. Yeah, it's fantastic. I fucking love this film. It's great.
It's probably my second or third favorite.
Oh yeah, I could say that.
Of the Wes Anderson films, it depends where the French Dispatch ends up lying.
Yeah, so. it's like his breakout film. Also, like you know what the thing is, it is technically in the film museum. Yeah, and as a National Film Registry or something like that. So yeah, it is in the museum. We have to just based on it actually being in the film museum. It's in the museum.
The whole thing is
in the museum.
My museum has a whole wing that's just called the Wes Anderson wing.
I know what you're talking about. All right, so the next one after that, the Royal Tenenbaums.
Royal Tenenbaums. That one goes in the museum also. It's the first Wes Anderson film that I can remember watching.
Yeah.
And it's held up all this time.
This one is like, it sucks. For sure it's on the shelf, like at least, whether it's in the museum. But then again, I have to give it to In the Museum because I think that's the first one where he perfected his style.
Yes, that's definitely where his style shows. Like that's where you see a movie that there's only one director who could have made it.
I agree with that. Okay, the next one after that, The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. Okay, easy for me. I'm saying In the Museum. I fucking love this film.
Same here. I'm sorry. Like I said earlier, he is my favorite director of all time. Not one of my favorite directors of all time. He is my favorite director of all time. So you're going to hear a lot of museums from me today.
Oh yeah, I think I agree with that. I can't disagree. Anybody who doesn't like this film, you got poo-poo taste. Fuck you guys. What's it called? Blake, if you don't like this, I'm just going to put my ass cheeks on your face and just fart on it until you accept it's in the museum. I'm just kidding, Blake. We love you.
Yeah, we love you, Blake. We miss you.
What's it called? The Darjeeling Limited.
Bargain bin.
Ooh.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
you know
Wes.
What? Because I haven't seen this in a while, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. At least put streaming with ads.
Okay, yeah. But I'm putting it in bargain bin. I'm sorry. I just...
at least you didn't put in a shit bucket, you know.
Yeah, I mean... Well, at least there's some artistic integrity. I reserve the shit bucket for trash films that
you
don't deserve to
put the Wailing in the shit bucket.
I changed my mind later. I stated that later that I changed my mind.
What is it now? What is now for
no, that one actually goes on the shelf. I watched it again.
Okay,
I actually do appreciate it a little bit.
Okay. Let's.
At least it's better than some of the other movies you've made me watch.
Oh, that's true. All right, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. That one's also going to be streaming, but premium streaming.
Okay.
It didn't really hit me as
right. Yeah, but that's just a personal thing, right?
Yeah, that's just a personal thing. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a fantastic movie, but it's not really one that I know that once or twice every 10 years I'm going to reach for on my shelf. So.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. It's in the museum for me. I think it's absolutely one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's one of the best animated films I ever. Moonrise Kingdom.
So that's like not just in the museum. It's behind like 100 different lasers. In the museum, and it's got 2 security guards standing out there dressed in Boy Scout uniforms. Or what kind of scouts were they?
I forgot Boy Scouts. I mean, they were
basically Boy Scout analogy uniforms. Holding little rifles with a dog next to him. Yeah.
I think that film is great. It's just like I haven't seen it since like 2012 or whenever it came out, and I wanted to watch it again before this. Right? I'll say this: it's at least. I'll say this: it's a tentative in the museum for sure on the shelf at least. and that's gonna be a tentative because I have to
You
rewatch
need to watch
it.
this film tonight.
Yeah, I have to rewatch it. I'll say this right now. That's where there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry for that weird rating for that one. Grand Budapest Hotel.
Also in the museum.
Same.
Beautiful film.
Fantastic.
I watched this film for the first time with my uncle and my dad in St. Louis. This was before I was a big Wes Anderson fan. I didn't really understand the art style of Wes Anderson at that point. I watched this film, and that's kind of what awakened me to his uniqueness and his brilliance in cinematography.
I think it's a lot of people's gateway to his films.
Yeah, and after that, I watched Moonrise Kingdom. I rewatched The Royal Tenenbaums, Steve Zissou, and I remembered these films, and I had watched those two when I was so young that I didn't realize how artistic they were. So it's in the museum for me, definitely.
I agree. Isle of Dogs.
Isle of Dogs in the museum as well.
In the museum, it's fantastic. No words. Yeah. It's just fantastic.
That's in my top 5 of Wes Anderson films. It's a brilliant film. The way that he's able to handle language barrier in it is something that he tried to do in Bottle Rocket, but I think that he finally got it right and mastered it in Isle of Dogs and took it up even a step further in French Dispatch.
The French Dispatch.
The French Dispatch.
Okay, drum roll, please. I think you and I might have the same rating.
I hope we do.
Okay, and I'll just say this: my rating has changed. So attention. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In the museum. Yes. I think it was on the shelf, but as we're talking about it, as I'm thinking about it, it's a surrealist masterpiece.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I will say that as it stands right now, this is my 3rd favorite film of 2021.
Honestly, you know what? Wait, what's it called? You know what? I'm looking at my list right now. It's a preview for our. Okay, and I know you don't agree with this one too because you have a bad take on Dune. But I'm just kidding. Dune and Titan are tied for 1. Okay,
Titan's my number 2.
What's it called? Number 1. Dune and Titan are tied for number 1. Number 3 is The Green Knight. Number 4 is Spencer. You know what? I'm gonna put The French Dispatch as number 3. Actually, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
It's pretty much there. What is your number 1?
My number 1
right now so far.
A movie that I just watched last week, and a movie that we are going to be talking about soon. So I don't want to mention it quite yet.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
But favorite film of the year, which I was surprised that it took away Titan's place because Titan. I've been pushing Philip, like, let's talk about this film. Let's talk about this film. He's been down.
Oh, we don't, because our other 2 hosts
and it's out of theaters, so they can't watch it anymore, and it's very disappointing.
We'll talk about it in the end of the year special, and when we have our Oscar, we're gonna have like next year in anticipation for the Oscars. First time for Half a Clue, we're going to talk about like best foreign film nominations likely and stuff like that, and who do you think is going to win, both on our personal reasons and like actual analysts and shit. And Titan, of course, will be there. If it doesn't get nominated, it's going to be a riot for me. Yeah, for best foreign film at least. There's no way it's going to get best picture nomination. But yeah, and then Pig is my 4th favorite film. Oh my god. You forgot about Pig? I totally forgot about Pig. Go watch Pig, guys. Yeah, it's a great film. It's actually out on DVD now. I bought the DVD for it because a Blu-ray is not available. Fix that. But other than that... Wait, the Blu-ray is not available for Pig? There's no Blu-ray for Pig. It's DVD only. You're shitting me. Unless they released it after I ordered it. You are shitting me. No. There is no Blu-ray for Pig. There is. There's a Blu-ray for Pig now? There's a Blu-ray for Pig. God damn it. Okay. I got to go buy the Blu-ray for Pig then. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go. People watch. Yeah, it's cool. It's a great movie. Yeah, it's not what I was expecting from Nicolas Cage. No. But it also was what I was expecting from the trailer. So yeah, you're the only one who picked it that way. I was the only one who understood it from the trailer, I guess. Exactly. Right. I've got a knack for doing that, I guess. You know what? Thank you guys. This was an insane episode. I love this. Probably one of my favorite episodes we recorded. Hopefully the audio is good. Yeah. what's it called? We might have more of this in the future. Hopefully, the Cowboy Bebop. Yeah, we have the other guests too.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for hearing this. Let's go. Have a good day, and stay filthy. It's half a clue. Half a clue.
Don't steal other people's taglines. Okay. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Bye.